It does. Oh, there we go. Hello and welcome. We are here on a Thursday evening in North America time, and pretty much early Friday morning in Europe and beyond to discuss exactly what's here on screen. Don't scope and drive. I think for what we're going to approach here for tonight is we're going to try and keep it about 60 to 90 minutes or so. We'll discuss Don't Scope and Drive, what it is, what we're trying to do, and bring awareness to it. You know, our personal involvements, who's been affected by it, maybe some service professionals in the industry who might be able to make it. I had a special guest that was, going to come on here, but he couldn't make it last minute. So unfortunately, we couldn't get them on. I'll explain that a little bit further later. Yeah, I mean, let's get started. We have a good solid room already. We've got a great turnout, 42 people active viewers in here, and it's continuously growing. So reminder of everybody to continue to try and tell a little bird, get your friends involved. If you're in touch with them in some other fashion, feel free to let them know to come over and have eyeballs on this. If they have any comments or questions that they want to submit, you can either DM myself, Make Me a Harp, or ATW Networking on Twitter, and we'll take those questions inbound from Twitter, and we'll get them shared into the cast here tonight. So I appreciate everybody's time. If you have to go, please feel free to just note it in the comments that you've enjoyed it or didn't, or you had comments otherwise, but you had to leave. Completely understandable. For people coming in and out of the seats, let's try and be mindful of everybody's time, your comments, and the like. Let's keep things on the up and up and positive, and we'll see what we can do from here. Scott, are you in here, Scott? I may have missed you. We'll wait for Scott because he should be in here as well. But I think he was a little behind on something. Tim Burrows.
Hi.
How are you, sir?
I'm excellent. How are you doing, my man?
Doing very well. Thank you very much.
Okay, first of all, I'm going to stop you. How are you doing this thing across your screen?
This little fancy magic right here. I've got some, little hamsters over there in the corner, just hammering out some stuff and then doing the little wheel, cranking it out. This is just some video magic called Cam Twist. It's
Cam Twist.
It's a video layering editor, virtual camera, package that's available for Mac. There's various other kinds, Bandicam and stuff like that for Mac and PC as well. They all do very similar things. Put layers on top of your video. You can show desktop and so on and so forth. So
sweet. I'm gonna have to try that myself now.
Yes, it's a ton of fun, if not productive, but it's definitely a ton of fun for a lot of things.
And look at the benefit that we have here tonight for us. You've got the topic scrolling along, reminding everybody all the time. This is perfect.
That's right. And just before, I don't know if you saw it, just before I had a full screen image up.
I did.
Where I had, if I can pull that one, right there.
Yes.
Which was the same image that I tweeted out. So, yeah, it's great. So,
nice.
Burrows. Who is Tim Burrows, and what is it that you do?
Who I am is really inconsequential. Sorry, I'm just looking at my Dr. Evil counterpart there.
That's right.
Well, everybody, hey, I am Tim Burrows. I spent 25 years as a police officer in Toronto, Canada, before I retired and decided I hated snow, hated cold, hated ice even more, and I moved down to Orlando. What I do is now I do consultation with law enforcement, training for law enforcement, social media, advocacy, and consulting. But what my real deep down underlying passion was when I was a police officer, naturally I was all into the public safety and the messaging, but I actually spent several years in communications for the police department where I got into digital and social media. But my passion really became messaging around traffic-related traffic safety issues. So that's when I saw Jason and everybody talking about this a few weeks ago, jumped right in and had to be involved with this because it is such a huge thing. And we all see it every day. People scoping and driving, people blabbing and driving, people doing all sorts of different types of live stream now while they're driving. I think it's crazy. I think it's nuts. I think it's dangerous. And I had to join Jason and everybody at Don't Scope and Drive to help get that message out to stop it.
Yeah, it's such a very scary thing. There are way too many people that we're seeing today that are not using common sense to, there's a lot going on when you're driving. There's a lot, especially when in Toronto traffic, in New York traffic. I don't know how it is in Orlando or in Florida area in general, but what the Toronto traffic is like on the 401 and the 403, the Gardiner, in New York, just in New York cities alone, Jersey and Boston and that sort of stuff in the surrounding areas. Like, it's just mayhem out there already, and to have your wits about you and not get into an accident without being distracted is just that much more difficult to manage and do when you have a cell phone in hand.
Yep.
In one hand, switching hands, looking and scoping, maybe doing selfies or reading your email or, this is highly, highly distracting.
We'll take it one step further. And I've seen the people that have been scoping and blabbing and nomad casting, and they've got it hard mounted to their windshield, and they think that's completely fine because they're not touching it, and they don't get the idea that the distraction, whereas you can actually watch these people and they're doing this on their screen and they're tapping it, and you're just you don't think you're distracted? Yeah, so it's the actual task that you're destroying, and the task at hand is driving. And here's a little surprise for folks, and I'm sure anybody in the medical industry that's watching will agree with me. Human beings actually can't multitask. All you can do is rapid task splitting, which means you're taking your task and changing the priority from time to time to time, sometimes really rapidly. Sometimes some of those auto-mechanical moves are happening, such as breathing, but you just can't multitask, and people think they can. And this is just another layer of tasking that you're adding into an already extremely complex task of driving.
Sorry about that. I had to cough and I forgot to unmute. So you're right. It's not just about having a device in hand, but it could be hard mounted on your dash. And the act of you, when you're doing your scans left to right, and making sure that using all your mirrors when appropriate, scanning foreground and foreground, like away from you, further away from you, and foreground to see what's around you, trying to anticipate drivers that are closest to you, trying to ensure that the pathway to which you're driving this big massive vehicle, down a road at any speed limit, 30, 40, 50, 60, 100, K or 100 mile an hour. I mean, ridiculously different speeds, sure, but it happens. And trying to do so safely in a way that, gets you home alive to your family, gets you home to your wife and kids, gets you home to your parents, gets you home to your significant other at whatever level that is really critical and really key. And I think social media, being that it's growing as fast as it is, as so dynamically as it is, that people have FOMO, FOMO, fear of missing out, that they're willing to take the risk of injuring themselves, or worse, or even worse than that, injuring others as a result, just because of FOMO and social media.
Absolutely.
How's that something that we should be tolerating as humans, as citizens, as people that do this ourselves versus other people that we catch and call out that are doing it? Right?
Well, there's one of the keys. You talk about FOMO, fear of missing out. As a parent, I have a fear of missing out on my children's futures. I have a fear of missing out on seeing them grow and become adults and move on from that and get married and have children and make me an old grandpa. But like, that's one of my fears. And do these people realize that their FOMO could be the fact that they are going to miss out on everything or cause someone else to miss out on everything?
It's so true. And really, I just don't get it. So I've said before that I didn't live stream and drive. That was one of the things I never did. Have I checked an email and drove in before? Sure. But not fully. Like, I wasn't fully paid attention. I was looking to see who it was that was reaching out and if it was urgent. There was key indicators at the top of the email that it was urgent. If that was the case, then I would go find some place to pull off. Okay. SMS, I never really did. Manhandling a phone to be able to dial a number or pick up a call, yeah, I've used to do that. But I have to say, like, I'm one of the people that didn't necessarily see the dangers early on. Now, I can give you whatever excuse I want to give you, none of which are valid or warranted for that matter. And the excuse that I used to give was that I've been driving since I was 16, almost nonstop, for so many hours of so many days of so many weeks and years and so on and so on. I have more or less the equivalent of what race car drivers have for professional driving, like that 10,000 sort of hour professionalism. Yep. I have my wits about me. I know the anticipation of specifically, and I would have only said this in areas that I am very familiar in, my local neighborhood, the local roads that I'm typically on. But even then, I have to stop and realize that randomness happens. Yeah. Nothing ever is set in stone. So no matter if you're in the same neighborhood, 20 bajillion times, it just takes that one person who is also now distracted in that 1 millisecond to go, oops, I didn't put the brakes on that 1 millisecond, and could have caused, a head-on collision, could have caused a T-bone, it could have caused any other, crash. I was about to say accident, but I think there's quite a distinction between accident and crash, right? And I think
in my opinion, there is, yeah.
Yeah, and I think we're really moving as a society away from the word accident, and we're moving towards crash and most incidences because of the terminology. We'll revisit that. But so I took a stance. I kind of just went, okay, I'm done with it. It's not worth it for me or my wife or my family or my friends to get that call. Something happened to Jason. Something happened to TechStud. Oh my God, what happened? So is my device in my car in a way that I can still see the screen today? And do I interact with it? First, yes. Second, no. I won't interact with it in the same way as I used to. Can I see the screen? Well, yeah, it's not mounted on my dash. I never put my device on my dash. I just don't. It's one of those things I just never did. Yeah. So I'm calling myself out here. I'm being as honest as I can possibly be with everybody. Can everybody else do the same? So let me finish the thing. Yeah. So is the screen where I can see it? Yes. Will it take my eyes off the road? Absolutely. Do I do it? I've glanced, but I also have like the way that the screen wakes up and goes to sleep. It's very dim. It wakes up ever so slightly. I can see the time, and usually I can see what the last topmost indicator is of like whatever it was. It came in from Twitter or came in from whatever. What I'm looking for is there a text message that I missed that I need to pull over and look at? I just do a like that, and then I'm back at it, but I don't focus on it. So I'm just looking for an indicator. I'm sure that's still not acceptable to many people, and I get it, but I'm not focused on it. So all I'm waiting for is the Pavlov, scenario. Bing, Is it something, and I'm actually working on right now my audio profiles to find a way to give each application its own unique identifier, like a sound tone, so that then I don't even need to look at it. And most of the time nowadays, even more so than not, I've put it inside my cubby hole in my dash, so I can't really even see what's on it. So I'm even more getting away from that even more now. So I'm maybe only in a place where it's sort of sitting in my cup holder, and I can sort of see it if I really look at it, maybe 15% of the time. Most of the other time now I'm taking the stance, if I can get into the habit of getting into my car, dropping it in the cubby hole and not looking at it until I stop, it's better off for everybody, and myself included. So I'm there. Once in a while, I still, that 15 or so %, I keep dropping it in the thing and I'm looking for it, like, okay, I got to stop. So, I'm mostly there. So does that qualify me for being, one of the spokespeople in here? Sure it does, because it helps me to be better and to continue to get at it and work at it and get it gone. Is it practical enough for me to throw it in the trunk? Sure. I mean, is it a way to, to break the habit? I suppose. Sure. Is it extreme? Sure. But, okay. So you want to call me out on it? Sure. I can certainly do that. Fair enough. There's a couple things that we do want to get to, Tim, but there's a couple questions that are starting to pile up. I just want to make sure that some of these are being sort of addressed. There was a question from Infidel early on. I've backtracked quite a bit. Thanks, Christy, for pulling these up. What's the protocol when we see somebody blabbing and driving? Is that something that we can answer right now, or should we wait to get some more discussion going?
I think we can throw it out there, because I've done several times. What I've done is one of two things. I've either left the room, I go in, I see that it's there, and I just leave. And the other thing that I've done is I've gone in, saw what's going on, typed why I'm leaving, and then left. I've done both. I don't have one preference over another, but my kind of thought in the back of my mind is why would I type in why I'm leaving to bring more attention to that person that's doing the driving? And so I can see the point, maybe that's not the smartest thing to do, but I think what it does is it sends a message to everybody else that's there as well to say, hey, maybe he's got a point there. Let's get out of here. That's my view, my opinion.
Right. So I'm not sure that, like, I started out with that thought. Let's put some sort of text in the screen and let them know the reason why I was there and that I'm no longer there. But now I fear that if I put that message on the screen and then back out, they read it, they get into an accident, I'm the cause for that accident because I then put the last message on there, or I was part and parcel of the messages that were on screen when that person read it and got into an accident as a result. So I think I'm going to take the stance of I'm just going to leave. And it will be silent. It's not going to give the same, sort of response, but it's not bugging them. And it's not getting them frustrated when I put a thing on there. Please don't text and drive. Please don't scope and drive. Please don't, whatever and drive. And I'm leaving and, whatever type of other message that I want to put on there. So I'm just going to, for me, I'm going to back out, and I may either tweet them if I don't have the ability to direct message them. Otherwise, I'll direct message them and say, look, I appreciate you as a person. I appreciate your content. I know that you're a really good person, but live streaming and driving is not for me. If I happen to come to any of your scopes, Blabs, Meerkats, or anything where you're doing that, I'm going to leave. I will also advocate for my friends who I talk to personally to possibly do the same, which means your follower count and your number count when you do these sort of things will diminish. So, and if you don't like that, that's fine. You can either block me, or you can just ignore the fact that I'm not going to be there and not support you during those times. And that may end up turning into me not following you completely because you don't follow, some of the common sense type stuff that we would like. I don't care how great your content is. Your content is worth diddly if you're not here. Or for that matter, if you take somebody else out, right? So what is the point? So your approach works for you. great. I'm going to take the more stern approach, and I'm just going to go, I'm out. Like, if I see it, I'm out. Unless I'm hosting this blab and somebody pops in, I'm going to X them out, so they're not participating.
So here's a third option. So take a combination of yours and mine. You see what's going on, back out of the room, knowing that everybody that's using Blab or Periscope is on Twitter. Maybe we jump over to Twitter when we're out of their scope and just politely tag them on Twitter and say, hey, would have loved being on your Blab or on your scope today, but I saw that you were doing it while you're driving, and I just can't support that.
Exactly.
Oh. Do we have a compromise? We have something down the middle here?
No. If that works for you and that works for everybody else, that's great. Sorry, I was trying to access a tweet of mine, which I want to put into the chat here.
Steven, yes, right in the chat right now. Stephen Caggiano, giving credence to Mitch Jackson, said, "Don't give scoping drivers an audience."
Correct.
Great advice. You know what? If Mitch Jackson's saying that, who am I to argue with Mitch Jackson? Just look back out of the room.
That's right. Give them the attention that they need about this topic afterwards, but not during. It's really not worth it at all. Christy, if I've missed some questions, can you throw some more up? Thank you. Appreciate that. Minu, which is Lucia, what about people that say they are not reading and answering any comments, just video viewing?
Yeah, well, and I kind of typed in an answer for this.
Videoing. Yep.
Yeah, I typed in an answer for this earlier and said, I can live with the reality that some people are going to live stream their drive. I've watched literally a few hours on YouTube of people's drives through areas that I know, just to see, what it was like for somebody else's views. I can live with that. And part of when I was the driver trainer, we used to have people do continuous narration while they were driving so that I knew what they were seeing and where their eyes were and what they were doing. I can live with that a little bit. I can't live with somebody that's responding to comments, that's liking, that's asking for their heart shut out or their feels. So I can live with a view of the drive as long as I know and I'm confident that that driver doesn't have a view of the screen.
Great. I have a perfect example for this, and this came up on our the last time that we did this. I don't know if you remember this exactly, but I'll remind you, and of course the new people that are here, which I really appreciate. And just before I do so, everyone, there's a message in the chat section that I put up there. So if you can click on that tweet and retweet that one, that would be really helpful to me, because that actually has the infographic on it as well. That would be perfect. So last time that we were doing this, what was it? Maybe 3 weeks ago, I think it was. There was a young man that came in. He said that he was an ex-officer. He was also ex-security for some group in a border control. Yep. So he indicated that for his current job, which he is no longer with any of those public services, for his current job, he live streams much of what he does. He has a mount on his dash or on his window in the dash area with his device facing him so that he can live stream. And he even tried to challenge us that what he was doing was fair and legal in his state and whatnot, and that what we're doing here doesn't always resonate everywhere in the world. Yep. And that he assures us that he understands the importance of it, but he is not looking at the screen. So I took the challenge and challenged him, and I got no other feedback from yourself or anyone else that was in the room other than him. And his response to what I said to him was rather shocking. So here's how it goes. I drive for a living. I make money at driving, and I live stream. I have a mount on the dash. I can see the screen, but I don't look at the screen. I continue to do my sweeps. I drive, and I don't pay attention to what's on the screen. My response: can you see the screen? Yes. I don't think you're in the right frame of mind to say that you don't look at the screen, because I guarantee you that you do. Yeah. He goes, I don't look at the screen for the comments. I look at the screen that it's still active or live. Ah, it's not what you said before. You said before that you don't look at the screen while driving. Okay, so I caught him on that one. He was surprised and he appreciated it. So I said, I'll take it one further. You haven't figured out how to work that situation in your favor. Whether it's valid in your state or not, you haven't figured a way to make that work in your favor. And it's a simple solution. Anthony, 1 second. I'll get you. Just stay ringing. He goes, no, I haven't. I go, okay. So just to be clear, so that I understand your situation, you've got it mounted on your dash and you've got the screen facing you and the camera is live. You can see the comments, but you don't actually look at them and read them. Correct. And you say that you don't look at your screen, but you said that you just did look at the screen. Yeah, I did. Yeah. Okay. Simple solution. Today, this, my friend, is your newest tool.
There you go.
This right here, for those that are maybe not fully aware, this is a pad of Post-it notes. What can a pad of Post-it notes do for a device that is mounted on your dash and you're live streaming and you don't want to look at your screen and look at the comments? Take at least 2 off. Cover your screen. Take a couple more and cover your screen. There you go. Bare minimum, you can't see what's on the screen. You're not tempted to look at the comments. You're not tempted to see how many hearts are coming in. You're not tempted to see if you're still connected or not. That is still visible, which is your camera. Your screen is covered. Simple solution. His jaw dropped.
Okay.
He goes, wow, that was super simple. You're absolutely right. Super simple. Then I asked him, have you ever bought a pair of sunglasses before? Yes. What kind? Oakley. Excellent. I happen to have an Oakley bag, which the sunglasses often come in. Guess what that Oakley bag is? Big enough to act as a sock for most devices, even my oversized Android. Can you see the screen now? It's a black sack. If you have a spare one of these, or you can go buy one of the sunglass huts and pick up an extra one or buy one, cut a hole where the camera is, slide the sock over, you can't see the screen, and just mount it. I don't think that guy's mouth could drop any further, but it did.
Yep.
Went right to the table, and he was like, wow. He even apologized for challenging because he didn't take the time to think outside the box and find other ways to block viewing the screen. And to be honest, oddly enough, I wasn't prepped for this. They just happened to be here on my desk. And I'm not joking. I mean, it just happened to be on my desk, but just like it was last time, I used to have a pair of Oakleys and had a bag left over, and it was just sitting here on the desk. Anyways, any sunglass bag can act as a sock to cover your screen. If you're willing to destroy it, cut a hole in it. I said, ultimately, even better than that, if you want, find a way to mount it so that the screen is not facing you and just the camera is on the backside. Flip the camera and let that point to you, because then you can't see it. The only problem is that you're going to have the glare of the screen off your windshield, and you're still going to have to cover it. So you might as well just cover it and have it face you.
I think I have the best idea, and this goes back to when you were originally talking about how you've been covering yourself with putting it in the cup holder or whatever else. And I'll go back to my traffic safety messaging days. How about out of sight, out of mind? Turn it off if it's that much of a distraction. Put it in the glove box if it's that much of a distraction. Leave it in the trunk if it's that much of a distraction. I live in a state now that when I first moved down here, I went from Ontario, which had pretty good laws on distracted driving, to Florida, which if you didn't have a phone in your hand, you definitely looked out of place. And so what I got so used to seeing all the time was people at stoplights would be sitting there talking on their phone or texting or everything else like that. And it just, you get to that point where you want to tell them you don't understand how dangerous it is, even if that's when you're choosing to do it, because you're down and you're looking down, somebody honks from behind you. Your first reaction is you hit the gas pedal and you go, and you didn't realize that there was a kid walking by the front of your car.
I agreed. But if you're if you do it sensibly, I might be able to accept that. Like if you're putting a sock over your screen, you're making every attempt and every effort to just use it as a camera that you're not looking at a screen and being distracted by, and you're just talking as if you would be talking on a cell phone in a manner of speaking, still doing your sweeps and that sort of stuff, I might tolerate that more.
Yeah, I can live with that.
It's more responsible than what we've ever had, and it's a solution that most people don't even realize is out there to them.
Yeah, or they're not willing to take.
Or not willing to take. Anthony, how are you, sir?
I'm great, Jason. How about you, my friend? How's
doing very well, thank you.
Good. Hello, Tim. How you doing, buddy? All good. All good.
Sorry, I muted there. Tony, excellent. How are you doing tonight?
I'm fantastic. I'm good. I'm really good. So this is a real. I'm literally recovering from a Blab. I was in that Grant Cardone Blab, and I need a drink. I need a drink. I mean, like 300 people in that room, and I'm like, holy Lord, I gotta get out of here. That was good. He was doing some type of Shark Tank thing where you go in, you pitch your idea, and it's just, I feel like it's like, what is it? Britain's Got Talent, American Got Talent, and you gotta let all the wackos go first, and you gotta go in later. So really, really crazy. But it's good to be here. This is a little calmer, a little more relaxing.
Oh, excellent.
So, but I really like the title. So let's discuss Do Not Scope and Drive. Well, depending on where you sit, again, I always try to look at both sides of the coin, and it's really both. It's the same. It's really the both sides of the coin are the same side. Just don't do it. Just don't do it. It's really not worth it. And studies have shown that when you're driving, okay, and you're looking down the road, and when you make a turn, and you're either grabbing your phone or you're texting your phone, you're blind in your peripheral vision. So when you turn, you're not looking for a person or a biker or someone walking across the street. You're looking for another car. And for the most part, you're not going to see the other car. You're going to hit it because you're so distracted. So I think I think the whole idea behind scoping and driving is it just should be completely off the table. We have a law in New York, and I admit I was guilty. My phone went off, and Jason, I did this. I grabbed my phone, and then like literally 30 seconds later, woo, sirens pulled me over. He asked me all kinds of questions. He goes, I said, listen, I said my mother's this. I was going to talk to her. I really didn't do anything with my phone. I just grabbed my phone. I put my phone down. He goes, in New York, I got a ticket, by the way, $180. I got a ticket. And I wasn't even reading my phone. They say, if you observe, help me interpret this, Tim. If you observe your phone, if you view your phone, right, and you can be pulled over for texting, they say, you're not even allowed to view a GPS. You cannot pick up any object and view it while you're driving. And I'm like, holy crap. Okay. And I tried to explain that to the cop, and the cop was, he was a New York City cop. So he was, didn't want to hear it. I could have told him, I said, listen, I am like, I'm Donald Trump's rich younger brother. He wouldn't care. He wouldn't care. So it was pretty interesting. So anyway, so I want to share that with you. So my point of view is, and I've been guilty in my 97 videos I put up. The first, first 10, 20 of them are me driving, but I have the phone on the dashboard, and I'm looking while I'm driving. And I'm like, I'm not even going to do that either because I don't want to give anybody the impression that I'm texting and driving.
So in those earlier videos, did you actually observe the screen and or respond to any comments during that time frame?
No, because it's a one-way video because it wasn't live streaming. It was recorded video. So okay. I put the video in my.
Did you look at this? Did you look at the screen or into the camera to get sort of a point across while you were driving?
Yes, I did. I did one of those and did that, one of those, and I realized even the one of those could cause one of these. And,
right.
Yes, hindsight's 20/20, but I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to be the guy to say, shit, I should have. Oh, wow, I should have. Oh, my God, why didn't I? I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that.
Yeah. You don't want to regret it after the fact, right?
No.
Regret it safely, knowing that what you got right now, $180 ticket, which is kind of an eye-opener to go, you know what? That $180 could have went to something else. A lot more fun and entertaining.
Absolutely.
Was there any points taken away or added to your profile?
I have to go to some defensive driving class because it's 3 points. Because I live in Connecticut, right? Now, because I live in Connecticut and I was in New York because I live on the border, so it was a rye. It was a rye cop, and the cops in Rye are they're tough. Tim, I say that with love, my friend. They're just,
hey, I had never had a problem with being called a cop that had compassion with a stone fist.
It was a little tough, but yeah. So
I hammered very softly on people. As far as what you can or can't do, most legislation that's being written now is keeping an exception in there, and it's the only reason you can look at a screen or manipulate a device is if it has to do with direct navigation of the vehicle. And that's because so many vehicles are being built in with GPS, heads-up display is making a comeback, all of these things, and some require manipulation. Most will shut off as soon as there's a speed breach. And that's where you got at, is most places you can't even have it in your hand, whether you're looking at it, dialing, whatever. If you've got an electronic device in your hand, there's your charge.
Well, yeah, and there's no two ways about it. It's just
no.
Yeah, but really, when you really start to listen, Tim and I, we're older. We get it. But the guys, the millennials, I mean, they live, eat, and breathe on their phone, and their phone is like it's almost like their breathing tube. They can't live without it. It's their communications device, right? It's their personal assistant, right? It's their online therapist, right? It's their office person. It's all these things. This phone has become like a robot for them, and actually, it's another life for them.
It really is.
It really is.
Anthony, I've got a question for you.
Sure.
Sorry, Kara, one more second. The question is, what's the point of scoping or live streaming without reading comments? So you did a live stream. You did a recording. There was no comments and stuff like that. Right. But in the same vein, people that live stream, there are comments. What is the purpose of setting one up, like we discussed just a bit before, which is to set one up, cover the screen, not look at it, whatever the case is, and do a live stream without actually monitoring the comments and getting that feedback?
Well, good question, by the way. Here's how I see it. Live streaming and scoping, you blur the lines. Live streaming is sort of the generic name, and under live streaming, there's different types of live streaming. There's interactive live streaming, there's broadcast live streaming. The concept of live streaming is, I'm teleporting myself into Tim's kitchen. I'm teleporting myself into Jason's living room. I'm teleporting myself to Kara's, kitchen. So I'm there with you, right? But if I don't want to have a conversation with Tim, or I don't want to read comments from Tim, but I just want to tell him a story like I'm telling him now, I'll use Periscope. So Periscope is really a broadcast medium, and there's really no need to read the comments, okay? And if you really want to read the comments and you want to get feedback, then go to periscope.tv and look at your stream and watch it later, okay? And then you can respond to them. But then, so for Periscope and you're broadcasting, there's really no need to reply to the comments when you're driving, okay? Now, I wouldn't recommend anybody blabbing while they're driving, because if you want to read comments, and you're also going to be viewing your camera, you'll be looking at 4 people. So there isn't anything, and the safety factor just completely, the law of diminishing returns, it goes with the floor. Your safety goes from here to like literally the floor, because you're always observing and you're always worried and you're literally taking your attention off the road. They say if you take your attention off the road, research says for every one text you read or begin to respond to, you take 5 seconds of your attention away from the road. If you take 5 seconds of your attention away from the road, that could be the difference between something really going wrong right?
What is that? Like the difference of approximately 1 second per one football field, sometimes 2, depending on how quickly you're driving.
Yeah.
You know, like you've just gone between 10 and 20 football field lengths away from where you were when you took your eyes off the road. And do you know how many objects you can put in the road between where you took your eyes off the road until where you put your eyes back on the road again?
Yeah.
How many football fields of football players can you put on the road? Right? The same thing. So it's insane. So thanks for that question. And sorry, we're just going to kind of keep moving a little bit here, Anthony, but I have one last question for you, is for you to think about, maybe if you can figure that out either quickly or later on.
Yeah.
Those videos that you have posted that you were driving, that you posted online, are those something that you're willing to take offline as a result of knowing what you know today? The only reason why I ask is that I see more and more of the people that are, getting their lights switched on today for things like this. They're going back and going, you know what? I was wrong. I don't care what my content was. It really was that important. I'm going to take it all offline now because I don't want any of that footprint left behind.
Sure.
Starting from now going forward. And I think it's a conscious decision that I'm going to take to ensure that I'm not saying that I'm erasing everything that I ever did, but if I'm going to take this stance, I'm not going to leave it up either for other people to go, oh, it was okay for him to do it at that time.
Yeah.
Right.
I have a very short response, but then I'll figure something out more along from later. But I'll say, and Z and company was saying, you can always redo the content out of the car. Yeah. For me, my videos are so I can't think of the word. They're intent. They're immensely
feature rich.
They're deeply personal.
Okay.
Deeply personal. So when I do a video, it's like I'm in my zone, right? I'm so present. And for me to duplicate that video.
Doing that in driving?
No. Well, no. Well, that's a good point because for me, and of course, Tim gets this. When he was a police officer, he gets it. Everyone tells you a story. So I'm rationalizing. So my story is, well, listen, my phone's here. I'm not really doing anything wrong. I'm driving, right? What I'm saying is, when I'm doing it to the windshield, and then I glance at the camera and I'll say something. But you have to understand, even that one glance, right, could cause a problem.
Right.
For me to go back and redo 10, 20, 25 of those videos, it's thought-provoking. I really have to consider doing that because you memorialize yourself when you put all these videos up there.
Sure. What you could, there's ways of managing that. Again, this probably isn't the platform to discuss that out in personally. And if you want to have that discussion, I'd be more than happy. I think Tim and I would be more than happy to have a further discussion on how to maybe do that better in a meaningful way, in a way that you can promote this and what you've did in the past in a meaningful way too. So if you want to have that discussion, let's do that.
Sure.
Anthony, I appreciate your time, sir. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. I'm going to pop out.
All right. Cheers. Bye. Kara, thanks for joining us.
All right. So thanks for opening up the discussion, Jason. Now, can I make one very quick point to kick this off with? I'm in Australia and the driver sits on the right-hand side.
Agreed.
So if we are sitting on the left-hand side, we are not driving. We are not distracted.
Agreed.
And therefore, we are fine. So please don't call us out.
But we also have to remember, Kara, that we're worldwide in what we do. Yeah. We also have to remember that as soon as we go online, we are not local anymore. We are worldwide. So that means that we all have to pay attention to each other in a way that is meaningful. So I think for me, if I were in your position, it may seem annoying, but I'm going to take the flip side of that. And I'm going to go, I'm impressed that somebody is willing to call me out on it. And I'm going to do what I can to say, don't worry, I'm the passenger, and then show the driver and go, thanks for recognizing that scoping and driving or live streaming and driving or distracted driving in any sort is a bad thing. I fully agree with you, but I'm not doing it, and try and help promote that message as well, right?
I take that one step further, Jason. I just don't do it. I don't do it because I don't want it to be seen as acceptable as scoping from the car. So regardless of, if someone sees me on the left-hand side of the vehicle, scoping and driving or blabbing and driving, that's just it, because we are a global audience. So there's that. I have been tempted to, but I don't have a hands-free mount for my phone. So what happened was one morning I was going to a show, and it was a glorious morning. Like, it had rained, the sun was reflecting off of the ground. It was beautiful. Like, the roads were clear and all of this kind of stuff. And I thought, oh, this would be a perfect time to scope, but it doesn't sit well and I can't do it safely. So I didn't do it. Now, I'm so grateful that I did, because I was stopped at a traffic light. The lights turned green. I went to take off, and a pickup truck went through the opposite lights and I had to stop in the middle of the intersection because they would have collected me. Now, so I would have been scoping a major accident, because I have a station wagon, and that was this massive F100 pickup truck. It was huge, and they would have taken me out, and they would have taken me out on the driver's side of the car. So everyone would have seen it. So there's that. So just don't do it. It's not worth it. No matter how beautiful and how much you want to share your message or your place or whatever it is, just don't do it.
Right.
My point of view is
Go ahead.
that it's not just about causing the accident. Jason, you know that I have a degree in psychology, but for the guys here, I've got a degree in psychology, and I spent 12 years working for the Department of Veterans Affairs here in Australia. So I saw a lot of people, especially men, affected with post-traumatic stress disorder from their service in the military. So what I don't want to see is, I do not want to witness a fatality on the roads and then have to carry that with me for the rest of my life. I don't want that, and it's not fair to everybody else that people think, but I have to do this. No, you don't. You're not just affecting the person that's involved in the accident, you're affecting everybody else who is watching, who is present. So for me, that is my point of view. That's another reason why I don't want to do it. Like I said in the chat earlier, my kids are enough distraction in the car. I'd like to be able to put a post-it note over there, but I can't. Doing this. And they're in the back, they're behind me, so I can't see them, but they are enough distraction. There are times where I have to turn the radio off because it's too much of a distraction for me. When you're talking about tickets, my husband was sending me a text message as he was driving out of a private car park. He was given a ticket by a police officer because he was texting whilst he was driving.
Wow.
He was in the wrong. He was in the wrong. He shouldn't have been doing it. And he copped it. You know, he took it on the chin and went, yep, I've learned from this. So for me, my phone stays, it's either closed on the seat next to me with the face down if I'm using it for GPS so I can just hear the instructions, or it's in my handbag. And you know what? People say to me, oh, but you know, you can't take a call whilst you're in the car. I'm actually quite grateful now that I can't take a call whilst I'm in the car because I don't want that distraction. It's just not worth the risk for me. So that's they're the things that I wanted to get across, Jason. So I think I'm done. I think I've got it out there.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
It's awesome. And Kara, on that note about people taking calls in the car, I'm to the point now, and I've done this for years, literally, is when I call somebody and I can tell they're in the car, I just politely, you know what, I'll give you a call back, or give me a call back when you're stopped or when you're not driving. And I don't try to make them feel bad for taking the call while they're driving. I just say, you know what, I don't want to be on the other end of that call if you hear the crash. Perfect point to what you said, Kara.
Yep. Cool. All right, I'm going to jump out and let somebody else jump in.
Appreciate it, Kara. Thank you. Christy, oh, perfect. We got a question. Ed, 1 second. Just got a question popping up. So Changing Lives in 2 asks, if the whole purpose to discourage the act of distracted driving is the act of distracted driving, then why are we searching for acceptable methods to continue the use? So, true.
True that.
That's my point. That's what I was coming on to say.
You don't really have. There's no real need to do any and all these things for sure. But there are still places in the world where using your device without hands-free is still legal. It's not illegal to use your device in various parts of the world. So if you're still interacting with your device, not touching it, but still interacting with your device in a audible way, like you would like a phone call, that's not considered distracted driving in many parts of the world. Oh. Is it acceptable to some? No, absolutely not. But the law is the law in their area, and all what we're trying to do here is not we're trying to change laws or try and say that interacting with your device, whether it be for maps, for email or text or making phone calls, is illegal or wrong. What we're trying to say is, from a global perspective, hey, just be mindful of what you're doing, and that distracted driving can cause injuries. We already know that stuff happens. We already know that there's don't text and drive campaigns, and drunk driving campaigns, and all kinds of other campaigns about distracted driving or impaired driving in all forms. And all we're talking about here in general terms is, no matter where you are, we should be helping our friends to recognize the fact that they could be distracted while driving, and as a result could injure themselves or others. And that we are not taking the stance of participating in that action. So how do we do it in a meaningful way? You can either leave a comment and leave quietly. You can just simply leave quietly and comment to them after the fact, and do it so in a meaningful way, not to piss them off or to piss yourself off or to cause huge friction. It's for me, I'm going to reach out to whoever it was. I'm going to say, hey, look, I appreciate you as a person. I appreciate your content, everything that you deliver. I appreciate following you. You're just a stand-up person, stand-up guy. You're an awesome bloke. Whatever language you speak, but the choice that you make when you drive, I don't like it. And it could be the same thing in the same similar vein as you enjoying, or not enjoying, for that matter, when people are smoking or drinking around you or in front of you or whatever. If you don't like it, you'll back yourself out, right? That's really all that we're trying to do here, is just trying to bring some awareness to it. Great question, by the way. It's a very thought-provoking question, which is great. Christy, if we could grab another question, I'll put it in queue. If not, I've got at least 5 or 6 more from another area that we could talk to. 1 second, Tristan, unless it's urgent. Ed, was that your question, or was there something else?
Well, that was my question, but that was actually my statement, is why are you looking for a reason to excuse it? But I'm also going to say hands-free is hands-free. Was in the car with actually one of these type bottles with a straw in it.
Sure. And
I picked it up and took a sip, and I got pulled over by the cop, and that's here in California.
Very
Second
cool.
part of it is just Monday. I was leaving my community, goes out to a red light. I was going through the gate, the light was green, it turned red. I stopped, and here came the guy driving distractedly in the crosswalk, and if my light would have changed when it did, there was not enough time for him he would have never been able to stop. If my light had not turned red when it did, I would not be sitting here right now speaking to you. Distracted driving is distracted driving. Whether it's a phone call, a phone, hands-free, doesn't just mean the phone. It means your hands are free, that if you need to react and flip your car the other way, you can put both hands on the wheel and do it.
And it could be anything as simple as eating food, drinking, putting your makeup on. Distracted driving, no matter what it is still distracted driving. We're not detracting from any of that.
But you're looking for an excuse with the sock and the bag.
I'm not looking for an excuse. What I'm trying to say is, if somebody's going to do it, we can't stop them. But if we can give them tools or better ways of doing it in a way that is more meaningful to everybody and is less distracting for everyone, and it still allows them to do what they must do for whatever the reason they choose to call it a must, then covering the screen, making it not visible, is still no different than having a voice conversation with somebody on the phone, because you can't see what's going on.
Okay, so if we can't see them and they want to scope, we can stop them, because if we all right here, right now, all 41 of us that are in this room, make the pact that if I go into Tristan and Tristan is driving, we all leave Tristan. Eventually,
Agreed.
Tristan's not going to have anyone to...
Agreed.
a reason or an audience. So if we all make the 41 of us here make the pack, and we pass this pack along, that anytime someone comes in and they're driving, that we all leave, whether it's their scope, their Meerkat, or their Blab. And I'm sorry, I called someone out the other day for blabbing and driving, and it was the left hand, right hand thing. And I'm sorry, I'm going to continue to do it because I can't see inside your car. If the camera's only on you, I don't know what side of the road you're on.
Yeah.
But chastising somebody versus asking the question, I think, is better. Is the difference? If you're chastising somebody, I'm just putting it out there. I never said that you did, but there are people, Ed, that do that. They would rather scold you first than ask the question later and go, "Oh, I'm sorry," instead of going, "I see that you're in the car scoping and the car is moving. Are you driving or somebody else?" Right? There's better ways of approaching the same thing, especially if they're engaging with you. They're going to tell you. They're going to engage with you one way or the other, right? I'm not looking for an excuse to, find ways to let people, live stream and do things better. But those ones that are not going to stop, how can we give them better tools to be able to better the solution and get closer to not scoping and driving, or not live streaming and driving, or anything else? If they can't interact with the screen and read the comments, they're just going to have to focus on their content and the stuff that they're sharing on live video, and they can interact with the device when they're stopped.
Yeah, but see, that's still, to me, that's still distracted driving. I don't take phone calls in the car. I don't do any of that. So for me, that's still distracted driving.
Sure.
And I think that if we all make the pack, that it starts with me. So if I don't come into Jason while Jason's driving, that's one less viewer for Jason. And if we all make that pack to do it, then we're starting to make a difference. And if we preach that in all of our blabs, whether our blab is on Don't Scope and Drive or whatever our blab is, and if someone wants to come in and they come in and you see that they're driving, I very simply said to this person who came into a blab, I said, "I'm sorry you're driving. I'm not going to keep you on camera." And boom, and then they said in the comments that they were actually the passenger
in another part of the world. Right.
I still.
I'm going to jump in. I got to jump in here for just a second, because Ed, I love you, and Jason, love you. No offense, both of you. I'm really having a fan moment here, sitting here with Tristan right there, and he's being so. Tristan, hey, welcome to the house. Thank you. Little fan.
Thanks, Ed.
Girly scream coming up.
So that's it.
Thanks, Ed.
Awesome. I just wanted to say that during that, kind of just listening in on that and all the bits that people are saying, there's that I've actually had to do this. I've had to call people out, and I've actually got a couple of different people that I've had to call out, big influencers and other people. And you generally find that the people who are saying it's a must, or the people who are trying to find reasons and excuses why they have to do it in the car, because that's when they've got the time to do it, and whatever the reasons are, you tend to find that the biggest thing to come up with is the fact that it's legal. And there's obviously a difference between something being legal and something being sensible. Obviously, there aren't laws to protect absolutely everything. There is no definitive. The law doesn't give you an answer for everything. So you have to still use a lot of common sense. With the aspect of having to go and deal with those situations, Jason articulated it really well in the fact that it's not so much about doing it, it's about how you do it. Because these people, I'm a really big advocate of bullying is not acceptable in any form. And if you're screaming and shouting at people for it, yes, it's wrong what they're doing, but you're also then doing something wrong. So you need to find the right way to do it. And personally, for me, I've been taking the time out. If you're passionate enough about what they've done wrong, reach out to them on a personal level, make a personal connection and say, hey, this is not cool. And this is why I feel this way. You're much more likely to have an impact on them because you've taken the time out and you've gone there. I mean, I did it by Twitter DM because I don't personally know them, and I've sent them stuff and I've given them all the reasons. And actually, I had probably an hour long backwards and forwards about the topic, and they argued with me. Sure enough, exactly that point. It's legal. I wasn't doing anything wrong. I've checked the law, and where I am, that's okay. And the next day, they took to Periscope and took the pledge not to do it ever again. because they went and had a conversation with someone else, and it was because of the way it was approached. Had I jumped in the scope and been like, don't do this, and had to go and publicly named and shamed and put their broadcast up online, which I could have done because, you know, that it's there in the public domain for people to see, it's the wrong way to do it. So it's about doing things the right way as well as what you're doing.
It really is. And I think more and more people are starting to get it. I had somebody that came into someone else's Blab, not mine, and I happened to be there. They were blabbing and driving. So then we had all 4 seats taken at this point because there was 2 people in the room. It was then myself, the third, and then this other person came in and was scoping and driving. And we were having a really good discussion. And this guy actually wanted to come in and have a discussion with me and one of the other people that were in the room. And I'd asked him to, if it was possible that he could, you know, pull over. It would help in so many ways, you know. And I wasn't, you know, preaching even at that point. He went on a bit of a, you know, a tirade. He goes, "Oh, I really wanted to be here and I wanted to ask you a question. Don't worry, I'm not distracted. I have full eyes on the road. So let me see if I can help recreate a little bit of what he was doing. Here's the steering wheel. Here's the device. I'm not looking at the screen. I don't know." And then and I just really wanted to ask a question. You know, I'm not distracted or anything. Flipping the phone between hands and the steering wheel. Right? What? How is that not distracted? No matter if you're staring at the screen or not, right? So he was on, and he wouldn't stop talking. So I waved, and I clicked and left the room. Well, I didn't fully leave, but the point was to get out of the video. Just to prove the fact that he was looking at the screen or not, he looked at the screen and saw that I left, and he was like, "Oh no, I didn't want you to leave or anything. You know, I didn't, blah blah blah." One of the people that were in the room, I'm not going to name names at this point. Tristan already knows the conversation, but one of the people in the room indicated that, you know, I was part of the Don't Scrope and Drive campaign, and that I had asked nicely for him to pull over so that we could better discuss whatever it is that he wanted to talk about. And he goes, "But I'm not distracted." And he tried to justify it again. And then the other person that was talking to him decided to go, "Well, you know, distracted driving is distracted driving, whether you have it in your hand or that you're looking at the road or not." I mean, you know, spent a minute or so explaining it to them while he was still driving. He's like, "That's the reason why he left?" She goes, "Yes, that's the reason why he left." Huh. So if I do that more people will probably leave. Most likely. Huh.
Dang good.
Okay. Give me a minute. I'm going to find a place to pull over safely. Took him a minute or two to do so. He stopped. He had a little bit more further conversation, begged me to come back in the room. I took some time to let him, you know, figure it out, you know, that I'm out of the room, and that I got called back in, and I came back in. Before I got back in and when I got back in, he had spent a significant amount of time apologizing. He realized how, you know, the error of his way. He goes, "This is a lot more powerful than I had thought. And you're right, it is not safe for me. I do want to get home to my wife and my family. This is just silly." So he took a few minutes to apologize, not just to the 2 people that were in the room, the host and the person that was in there as well, but to me as well when I came back into the room, which was fantastic. He even went as far as, "Where can I get involved? Where can I get involved?" Well, you're going to see it come up on screen here in just a second, which is to take the pledge, to go to www. Come on, it's getting slow. trying to do it on cue, but it didn't work. www.don'tscopeanddrive.org. Take the pledge, sign up tonight, right after we're done here, or now if you want to open up another window. You don't have to leave this blab to do so. Take the pledge. You have family members, you have friends that are interested. They don't have to be involved in social media. Get them to go and sign up and take the pledge. Let everyone be involved, no matter who it is. And it's not about scoping specifically. We're using scoping in the terms of live streaming. Yeah. It's not specific about scope. It's very specific about live streaming, being distracted as a general term. There's a ton of distracted driving websites out there. Don't text and drive, don't scope and drive, obviously. You know, I think somebody had commented in here that they were going to go buy and don't blab and drive or something of that nature.com as well. And the like. What is it? There was a dd.org site. Don't
drop it and drive.
Drop it and drive. There's a ton of them out there that are, you know, campaigning against the same thing. No text on board. Look at that. I mean, there's people that are out there selling liquid chalk that in pen form that you can write on your window. You know, if you're reading this, I hope you're able to read this. You know, you can put whatever message you want on your back window. Don't text and drive. Don't scope and drive. I mean, it all ends up in the same ballpark, in the same family.
Tristan made a really good point too earlier. He said in the comments that he lives online. Brian Fanzo lives online.
Yep.
There's several great names that live online. They're not doing it. Mm-hmm. I would feel like kind of an idiot that if I'm online, literally socially, and I feel the need to be out there trying to do this when people make their livings online and they don't do it.
Right.
Kind of makes it a humbling experience there. Tristan, go for it.
I'm going to chime in here, and I'm actually going to put my hands up and say that I have once or twice done it myself, but from the let's do it safely angle of I loaded up and I've put it on the side and I've not been interacting with comments and I've made it clear on the broadcast I'm not. Having had personal friends speak to me and say it's still not cool, and now, you know, I'm totally behind it and absolutely, you know, it's not an option. Like I said, if like it really sank in when I saw other people doing it, and obviously I then started to question how, like, where do you draw the line? Like if you, as soon as you start to blur the line, that's when you get this whole conversation of, well, we've seen you doing it, and you can't really say something about it if you're doing it yourself. And I'm really grateful of friends who have spoken to me and said, and like obviously getting into that conversation and dealing with it and now addressing it with big influencers. And I'm really passionate about doing that. And a lot of people, you know, are attacking like influencers for it. But from the angle of what's the impact of that person is, if you imagine it's a bit like dropping a stone in a pond, you get this whole ripple effect and it spreads out. So a big influencer may be doing it in the most safe way they could do it. They might not be reading the comments. They might be putting it on the, you know, on the seat next to them and not looking. But the 100 people who are tuned in may not realize that they've done that, and then they take to it. So now that happens. And actually, there's a really interesting thing I'm going to pull in here, Jace, from the comments earlier. Someone said, if you were someone who was to comment on a live broadcast, and your comment was what caused the accident, would you be liable for that? Because you're the person who distracted that driver.
Agreed, and that's the stance that I don't want to be. Sorry, that's the stance I want to take by not doing that. I don't want to put a comment in there, have somebody read it, have an accident as a result of it. I'm going to feel bad. I don't want anything to happen to them as a result of comments that I have made, or as a result of being part of other comments that were in a group that, you know, they're trying to read and get it caught up on. I'm just going to leave. And if I just leave, I'm going to leave quietly. If I leave quietly, I can follow up with them after the fact if I choose to at that particular time. I have a couple of questions. Ned, I apologize. I got a couple of questions that are coming up. I'm going to throw a bunch of them out there, maybe 2 or 3. And we can kind of discuss them maybe as a group here. Christy had indicated, Make Me Heart, she indicated that what frustrates her the most is watching police officers in her own town surfing the net, quote unquote, not using the city database while driving, and that she even has pictures, and I'm sure other people do as well, of them doing the same thing. What can we do about that situation? Does that happen? Is that something that we should be fighting against as well?
I will say adamantly, if you can actually verify, and I'm not saying you can't, if you can verify that it's the internet that they're surfing and it has nothing to do with their call, and they're not gathering intelligence information to make themselves safer or somebody else safer on the way to a call, that's pick up the phone, and that is to phone your local department, talk to a supervisor, give them the cruiser number, the scout number, whatever you got, and report it. Police officers know they are not above the law, and that's fast and simple. As a traffic communicator for the police department, as a road supervisor for the police department, the one thing that I kept on harping on to my people and my teams were, get to the call safely. Go where you've got to go safely. If you have to pull over to get more information, do it. I also had no problem defending to the public that when my officers were talking on the telephone or they're looking at their computer screens in the car, chances are they were getting more information about the calls they were attending on the way to find out which the best way to come in, alarms where they're going off, what the neighbors had seen. But if it's just a matter that they're surfing the internet while they're driving the car, pick up the phone, call it into their supervisor.
So how can we ensure that we can prove that they're surfing the net or doing something other than a call that's related to, or more data related to the call that they're working towards? B, we've seen in many situations where we could report that sort of stuff and it goes unanswered, under the rug, moved off to the side. Oh no, that's not us. We have the additional training to work, in that realm. So don't worry about it. Dozens of types of responses from people in the force. We already know. I'm not trying to deface anybody or blame anybody at all. Really, I'm not. This isn't the venue or forum for it. But there are many people that believe that the force will protect their own at any cost, so that there's no public shame or disface of the service or other system or the people or what have you. So they'll try and skirt around it, move around it, say that it was part of that. How can you prove, or how can we as citizens prove that that officer was not using their personal device to gather more information, or as one cop I've spoken to before, they use their personal device to send text messages back and forth to get around their own call system so that they can send stuff at a quicker speed, maybe not ultra sensitive information or anything, but to say, hey, there's a red car coming your way, because it's faster, it's more instant, that sort of stuff, but they have a device in their hand.
Yeah, here it is that one of the things that's written into every single piece of legislation that I've read in terms of distracted driving, law enforcement, fire services, emergency works are all exempt from those laws with certain parameters, simply because of the fact that it is, in many cases, a life and death communications tool, and it's been proven over and over again. Plus, most police departments and agencies get their information over the mobile data terminals. Even just looking at that under any other works, like you and I have a job and we've got a computer in our car, it's illegal for us, but it's not for the police. And that's because it's a very valid exemption. Realistically, you can't prove what they're doing online. Unless you are right there, you can see it. And chances are they're going to be stopped if you can do that, which then nullifies most arguments, especially when it comes to emergency services, public works, fire, blah, blah, blah. As a supervisor, I can tell you firsthand, the police departments protect their own in terms of it's a support network. And just like your own family, you may discipline your child, but it doesn't mean you don't support them. You may discipline your child, but it doesn't mean that you don't love them. And that's where a lot of people get confused with police departments. They think it's this whole world that, we're circling the wagons and protecting each other. I have no problem disciplining an officer 1 minute and then the next minute typing up an accolade report for him to say that he did a great job. That's just the way it is. When police departments protect their own, one of the things you don't ever see from a police agency is you never see internal discipline. The only discipline you ever see is actually what goes into the public record. And probably conservatively, there'll be 99 cases of internal discipline for every 1 case of external discipline.
Yeah. Additionally, I think from public services, much of the work that you guys do, or in your case did, was extremely dynamic.
Oh yeah.
So, just as you said, I could discipline somebody 1 minute, go away. Oh, forgot to mention, get your ass back here. You get a excellent write up for this other thing that's not related to that other thing, right? So, or for that matter, that accolade could be null and void as a result of poor judgment of other things. So you could say, hey, get back here. This accolade was for you. Here's all the facts and details, but we can't officially give it to you because much of what you just did recently null and voided all of it because it was maybe severe enough or what have you, right? So, I mean, and that, yeah, you're right. I mean, that sort of stuff happens with children all the time, and parents know this like back in their hand. I'm going to beat you down, but it's not because I don't love you. It's because the opposite. I love you way too much for you to realize that, what you're doing is pretty silly. So, here's the reasons why, and maybe that doesn't always come out so well in the beginning stages, but the education stuff does come along. Neda, welcome. How are you?
Hello, I'm good. How are you guys?
Super fantastic.
I just wanted to share my my experience.
Nope.
Oh, actually, Christy had something to say.
I just
Sorry.
want to jump in on the whole cop thing, and then I'll pop right back out, Neda. I apologize.
Yeah, no, that's okay.
The thing that frustrated me is twice we have local police substations, and twice I have been both in the passenger seat and in the driver's seat. I've had at a red light, had a police officer right beside me on his personal Facebook. He's not looking up another person. You can tell it because there's a difference between a public profile page and your personal homepage. I work in them all day long. I know what they look like. I watched him manage his personal profile, his personal homepage on Facebook, and continued to type and drive like this with one hand. I watched him. I not only took pictures, I took video. So I don't care if he's doing it for work or not. You're doing the very thing you're supposed to be policing us on. You are driving, you are typing with one hand, and his head was clearly this way and not this way. Do you know, I marched into that police substation and I was told, well, your vehicle was obviously moving when you took the video. I could not believe that I was actually reprimanded for taking a video of a police officer the time that I was behind the wheel. I got in trouble for it.
See, now that's the other thing, Tim, like we then get reprimanded from the police going, you just did something illegal as well.
Yep.
But and doing so in the safety of trying to, call out what it is that's wrong on the other end. Why couldn't the supervisor that took that statement say, thank you, I will take that and work with it internally, but please, if you're going to do that again, just call us.
Yeah.
But
did you get a ticket for that at all?
No,
Christy?
I didn't, but they wouldn't let me speak to a supervisor, and they would not let me speak to the officer in charge, and they would not let me write up a formal complaint.
Christy, I may have missed it. Where you don't have to say the police agency, but the area?
I'm in Raleigh, North Carolina. I will tell you, it's Raleigh Police Department. I've got no shame. I don't care. I have friends from neighboring towns that have told me, oh, that's BS, that our computers can't even get on Facebook and Google. Yeah, right. I have pictures and I have video.
It's not their computers. It was his personal device.
No, it is the laptop that is in their squad car. It is city property. It is a city laptop. Every single police vehicle in our city has a laptop fixed inside the vehicle, and they are constantly typing while driving.
Their IT has not set up their devices properly because they're not supposed to be access to public-facing document or public sites like that.
It depends, because I'll give you the example. It very easily for me to skim on Facebook or Twitter or any number of tools and actually get excellent intelligence for calls that I was going to or anything else. Now, in terms of an officer using it for Facebook or something like that, wow, to me. There is not much information I could get going to a call off of somebody's personal Facebook page, save an abuse case or a bullying case or a suicide situation. and maybe that's it. In terms of, for the most part, and I'll be honest, if I was in your exact same position, Christy, I would have ignored it because, and I will admit, full biased opinion here. I have a deep love for the police, and they can do a fair bit of wrong in my eyes before it oversteps that boundary, except for when it's putting lives at risk beyond and a comparable.
I have 4 family members that are on the force right now, and even all 4 of them think it's complete and utter bullshit. Pardon my French. I'm sorry. But my love for what our servicemen and women and what our police officers and our firemen, the people who serve and protect us, that is completely different. But how can you sit there and write up a ticket for somebody having distracted driving when you yourself, I don't care if it's Facebook or if it's the city database. I don't care if you're doing research. If I have to pull over, then your tail should
pull over.
If I'm distracted, you're distracted.
Other than the fact that they have legislation in place that says they're exempt from that law.
I promise you, I could go down to the city, and there's probably more than 10 reports in the last 3 months of cops that have sideswiped people because they're on their city laptops while they're driving, and they're sideswiping and bumping into people while they're driving.
Yep.
So how can you give me a ticket when it's okay for you to do it? That's the problem I have.
Because they are exempt under the law. That's the only reason it's okay, is because they have that exemption. Having said the words okay, it's truly not okay. It really isn't. If you're going to take that extra risk and you're going to take your time and your attention away from the road and literally drive distracted, you have to up it on the other end of it. Either you're slowing down or you're doing everything you can to maintain. You're doing quick glances, you're strobing at the screen or something like that. You can't have the best of both worlds. You can't drive distracted and not drive distracted. So unfortunately, that's the exemption.
So in Ontario, we have exemption rules in that scenario, and I think many places in Canada. So
North Carolina does as well.
Right. So
they've actually got fairly liberal ones.
Well, in Canada, we definitely have places where there's exempt, and I think it's all across Canada, but I can speak specifically to Ontario. We have rules that there are specific organizations, public safety is one of them, that are exempt from using handheld devices or things in their hand while driving.
Same here.
And amateur radio operators are also exempt from that rule as well, and they're not professional services. So there are a few that are exempt from that. It's not necessarily right, but it is part of the law.
Yeah, and I think that's a key there. It's not necessarily right. I can get some of the exemptions, but there's some other ones I just kind of shake my head at.
Yeah, definitely.
And here's the one that we argued for when they were talking about all these arguments. All the supervisors' cars qualified to have Bluetooth put in the cars because the supervisors were actually issued cell phones. Most of our guys on the street were not issued cell phones. They were using their own personal devices. Rules and regulations said that they couldn't carry a personal device when they were working. But it wasn't uncommon for me as a supervisor to tell somebody to give me a phone call on my touch because I needed to talk to them about the call they're going to because I had access to more information or was in a better database place. So I would tell them this stuff. Well, there's the catch-22. Wouldn't it have been a lot better to put Bluetooth in every police car? And that way, even the officers that were using their personal devices, they could link up and be that much safer. That's one of those things that just kind of falls on deaf ears because it makes sense.
Yeah, agreed. Netta, how can we help you?
Hello.
Thanks for your patience.
Yes, okay.
I know that was long, right?
Oh, goodness. No, it was good, though. It was really good. I mean, we've got laws here. I actually got booked by looking at my phone and changing the music when it was a red light. So I got a warning because I had no other previous offences. So, and that really got me thinking after that. I'm going, oh, well, that could have been a phone call. That could be me checking my emails. It could have distracted me. It could have been a green light. But I actually had an incident a couple of weeks ago, actually. I had both my kids in the car. Someone ran a red light while I was going through my green light. If I had not seen them, they were clearly on their phones. If I had not seen them, both my kids would have ended up in hospital or we would have had a fatality. So if I was myself on the phone, I wouldn't have seen that car coming. And, yeah, it could have ended pretty badly. So that's one of the things. I was also in forensics previous to what I'm doing now, so I've seen a lot of nasty things that have happened. It wasn't pretty. A lot of kids have been involved, and really opens your eyes to distracted driving. A lot of people don't see what happens, in an accident. It's all kind of hush-hush with the media. What you see is maybe the car wreckage, but what you don't see is the damage that you've done to the driver, the other driver, and also the families involved if there was a fatality. So, if you've got something to say on live streaming, wait till you pull over. You can wait. There's no way you need to straight away tell someone right there and then. That's just my take on it. Really.
That is your take, and I think other people would beg to differ. I mean, whatever's on their mind can't wait, right? Because of FOMO.
Yeah, I know.
Right? It's imperative that they get it off their mind, because there are people that have short attention span and they can't retain it and hold on to it and wait till they stop.
And take it from AT&T and some of the big companies here in the States, Verizon, they've kind of pooled their money and they're doing some messaging together as well as individuals about this. And here's one of the questions that I've loved asking people when it comes to distracted driving is what text, what phone call, what scope, what blab, what fill in the blank is worth dying over.
Yeah, I agree. Totally agree.
If you can convince me that text, that call, that blab, the scope, the comment, the heart, the love, the feels, whatever was important enough to die over, have at it, mate. You can die all you want.
I disagree.
Don't take me with you. That's
the part that I'm gonna disagree
exactly
with.
Right.
I wouldn't say have at it. I would say too bad for you, because it's not just about taking your own life. You could be taking others with you, or as a result, you could survive and somebody else could pass as a result.
The have at it. I didn't have my sarcasm font on.
I know. But and I get that. But let's be literal on that though, right? It's you want to go and do something silly, go do it on a rural road where there's nobody else, and you can hug a tree. I mean, just don't do it where there's other people. If you want to be that, insane, for that matter, there are probably other fun ways to. I'm not going to go there. It's just never.
And here's the counter argument to the buy yourself on a rural road and go hug a tree, because some poor doctor, an ambulance attendant, a fireman, or firefighter, a police officer,
a mother,
a coroner, a mother, sister, brother, and they're all going to be part of that death. So I think we back it right up, Jason. We just say once again, is it worth dying over? Just don't do it.
Just don't. I agree. So here's a couple of other questions that have come up through DM, and I appreciate everybody that stuck around. I know that we've gone past our 90 minutes. If everybody wants to stick,
I got to bounce.
Okay. If anybody, wants to leave, you're more than welcome to. I appreciate your time in this. If you can stay, you feel free. I'm going to run it as long as, you guys are comfortable doing so. There's going to be an open seat. There's actually probably going to be a couple of open seats. Tim, I always appreciate your time here and your insight on this, the level of involvement that you always give me on this topic. Brother, you being a fellow Canuck, that's the same. I just wish you were here more than down there, but hey, so be it. But we should get face to face sometime. But man, I appreciate your all your time and effort in this. Thank you.
I believe I'm coming northbound in October. I don't know when for sure yet, but I think there's a couple things on my schedule.
If you're in the neighborhood, or if I'm even within an hour's drive or so, I'll make the drive. I don't care.
Awesome. Appreciate it, everybody. Thank you so much for being on here. I'm sorry I got to bounce early, but life gets in the way of life. Thank you so much for paying attention. Thank you so much for telling the little birdie, Jason. Wow. Thank you for putting this on. Thank you. Appreciate it, everybody.
Take care, brother. See you soon. Awesome. Netta, it's true, right? I mean, there's so much that we can do, and it really just starts with simple common sense. Right?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I've been on scopes. I mean, today there was at least 3 scopes I went on, and people were driving. I had to leave because I knew that if I did put something in the comments, they're going to look at it, and who knows? I could be the result of them having an accident. So,
yep.
Yeah, it's hard to approach it. I think in some cases the hashtag "don't scope and drive" can be a little bit harsh when you're putting it in the comments of someone driving, so they can get offended in that way. But if you go about it nicely, I'm sure that they'll listen a little bit better.
Yeah, I agree. So here's a couple questions. What excuses do we make to justify using handheld devices while driving? Well, I think we've covered a bunch of those today already. What are the various ways Periscope can be or can distract us? I think just using it, really. There are some people like, geez, what was his name? Right on the tip of my tongue. There are some people, let me just change, it doesn't matter who it is. There are some people that are extremely passionate and get in the zone that when they're talking about something on Periscope versus on Blab where they're actually having a loose conversation, their mindset is not on driving as much as getting their content out of their head, and as a result they get so animated, so passionate about what they're talking about. That energy should be in, you know, driving your vehicle, pulling over, and then getting into a good animated discussion on Periscope when you're parked safely in a parking lot, not while you're flying down the road at, 65, 75, 85 mile an hour, or, 140 kilometers an hour down the road, when your vehicle is much like a missile loaded with gasoline and electronics and stuff like that could, destroy yourself and everybody around you. I think it's just common sense. Can you safely set up your Periscope prior to driving and have it face forward out the windshield? So I think that question could be managed in a way like what we've already discussed. Should the device be facing me when I'm driving? Or should I turn the device around so that I can't see the screen and the camera is still pointing at me and I still, get the effect that we're sort of looking for? Some people are going to take the approach, why do it even at all? Distracted driving is distracted driving. Fair enough. If they're going to do it, is there ways that we could give them tools or think outside the box methods that they can still do it in a safe manner?
Can you do GoPro? I think you can get those little cameras that. So
GoPro, I think, is.
I'm not sure if you can use that with Periscope.
But not.
Meerkat.
Meerkat, but not Periscope. Right.
Yeah.
So yes, you can certainly flip the camera, Periscope to the back, set it up ahead of time, and start driving. But realize that people that come into your scope may leave as a result. May not follow you as a professional on Twitter or otherwise going forward. You may get distasteful people and comments after the fact. Is that something that you want to partake in? Is that something that excites you? Is that something that you want? Is people nattering and nagging you because you were scoping and driving or live streaming and driving, blabbing and driving, call it what you will? Do you want that?
Well, the whole point of live streaming is to interact. So what's the point if you're just going to point a camera somewhere and just talk? You can do that with a video camera. You don't have to do it with your phone.
Right. I mean, there's obviously the element of here and now, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And getting sort of a sense of what's going on here and now. If I record it and I put it online later, it's either minutes or hours or whatever days old, and it's not here and now. You get the sense of what was going on at the time, but it's not here and now. And people are FOMO, fear of missing out, and here and now. Mix the two together, and we've got a deadly cocktail of craziness and driving distracted, right? What comments are so important to try and read while driving? Exactly. What comments are so important that you have to? There are none. Even getting the message of, please don't scope and drive, please don't live stream and drive, stop driving and just pull over. Reading those important messages are not important when you're driving your vehicle. Just don't. It doesn't make any sense. It really doesn't. Do you want a 16-year-old high school student periscoping or whatever live stream method with your other children, their friends in their car at the same time as them, or with family on the road? So the question could be better. So if you had your 16-year-old child who just got their license, driving the car for the very first time, and if you want to call the full year 16 or 17 years old as their first time, really trying to navigate this crazy world. Look at the traffic. You know, Netta, you don't know, maybe, I don't know if you know Toronto or not, but Toronto is a very bustling city. New York City, very bustling, probably worse than Toronto. Do you want your 16 or 17-year-old child navigating those roads with a vehicle full of their friends of similar age, and everybody's, you know, taking selfies and, you know, scoping and driving and live streaming driving and being distracted? Look, I grew up in a time where cell phones were next to impossible to have in a vehicle. But what was the next best thing? A car full of your best buddies acting like, you know, foolish kids, as we all did when we were young, distracting the driver just in the art of just being loud and obnoxious and sharing funny stories and getting involved and throwing things and, you know, having the stereo turned up and windows open and head out the window and screaming and hollering. Isn't that enough distracted driving just alone, let alone having live streaming going on at the same time?
Well, let me put it this way. When I was 17, when I first got my license, my first week of driving, I had an accident. It was hard enough for me to even concentrate rather than having other distractions. I did have people in the car before I had my accident. I dropped them off and then obviously I had my accident. But when you're first starting out driving, it is such a hard job to try and navigate where you're going, operating the vehicle. To have social media now as a new medium for these young drivers, it's scary, especially if they're new on the road. I mean, it's no excuse if you've been on the road for 20 years either. Like I said, I almost had an accident, not on my part, but someone else was distracted, and my kids could have been a fatality if I had not seen them coming and accelerated. Like I was accelerating, mind you, I could have had a really serious accident. I could see their face as they were coming towards me going, oh, and yeah, it's not there's no excuse for being on your phone. They could have killed someone, and for the rest of their lives, they're living with the fact that, yeah, I caused an accident and 2 little children had died. So, you know,
it's not something, it is definitely not something that you want to live with. I know secondhand in a way. I know I don't necessarily know firsthand because that would just be freakish. And I don't think I could, well, I don't know if I could handle it. Anyway, I know secondhand from people that have had situations where they were in an accident and death had occurred around them. Whether it was their fault or not, I'm not going to get into that. They were as a result of.
It's still an impact.
It's a huge impact on their life. Yeah. They could not return to any form of work or anything just because of the sheer shock value that has put onto their life, that a life that was around them had died as a result of an accident of sorts.
Yep.
Whether it was their fault or not, I'm not going to get into the details of whatever. But the point is that.
But it still makes an impact on your life.
It makes a huge impact on their life. They're completely. Their entire life is flipped upside down. It's you know, it's not something that not everybody can handle or manage.
Yeah.
Crisis counselors that deal with this all their life in other people's situations, acting on behalf of their patients and stuff like that, have been in situations of that in their own firsthand and couldn't handle it.
Yeah.
So how can professionals that do this day in and day out, you know, be exempt from that? They can't. They're human as well. They have to deal with the same sort of stuff. And then the crisis counselor needs to go to a crisis counselor.
Yeah, exactly.
To try and manage the you know, what happened, you know, and they have a lot more years experience of it. Sure. So they might be able to recover maybe a little better. Sure. But there's no exemption here whatsoever.
You're still going to live with it for the rest of your life.
No, exactly. And do you want that as something that you want to live with for yourself or your family for the rest of your life? It's not worth it. One last question that I had here, actually maybe 2.
I'm just going to pop out so someone else can jump in.
Okay.
Thanks, you
Neda.
guys.
Appreciate it. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. I want to talk to people when I drive around town. Is there a safe way to start a scope in a car and talk to my Periscope world? Call Periscope, because we don't necessarily call them out specifically, but that seems to be one of the common places where this stuff happens. Periscope, Meerkat, Blab, all the other live streaming platforms. It doesn't matter what it is. Is there a safe way to do that? We kind of discussed a few. Ed is, completely adamant against that. I appreciate his position on it. I really do, Ed. I get where you're coming from.
Can I ask that person a question?
Sure.
Can I answer their question with a question? Is my life less important than your Periscope, than your need? That's it. That's a simple answer to it. And Jason, I just popped in because I asked a question, no one responded, and I'd like to, I'd like to see a poll. Is in response to your FOMO and all that. Is it really FOMO? So vote with an F, or is it vanity with a V? Why people can't put it down? Because I see the same name of the social media person going through the chat.
Okay, wait a second. Before everybody responds to whatever that was, F and V, I'm going to do this slightly differently. Okay. As long as nobody comments in the comment field, just don't comment for a second. So FOMO, and what did you say? Vanity?
Vanity. Am I a celebrity?
Oops, sorry. That's not going to work. Can somebody put a comment, just a single comment in there? Thank you. Just hang on. Can somebody put another comment in there? Thank you.
I think they're all on it.
I had to separate it because the new update, if you send two messages after another, it still belongs under the same comment. So put a star beside FOMO, put a star beside vanity, the one that you believe is what Ed is talking about. Sorry, Ed, go ahead.
So anyway, I see the same social media person being called out, and we don't need to mention who it is, but they're either calling him out by his screen name or his first name. And I've watched the excuse, heard the excuse, and watched, particularly on Periscope and Meerkat, where I've got the phone right here and I'm driving right here and I'm looking here, but yet if he wasn't looking at the phone, how would he know that people was telling him to stop scoping? And so
just to make sure that everybody's aware, there's two comments that I've posted in there, FOMO and vanity, before it gets too far up the screen. You're putting a star beside the word FOMO or the star beside vanity, which one you believe that Ed is talking more about.
So, and that's just my thing. Is it really FOMO or is it really vanity that I'm a celebrity? I'm a YouTube FOMO, fear of missing out, right? Pure rain.
FOMO is fear of missing out. Fear of missing out. FOMO.
So you get 9 to 5 so far, but yeah. So it's just
it's probably going to be vanity in most cases. I agree, but fear of missing out is even those that are participating in a blab that they realize somebody is on, and really that will continue to happen. Don't worry, you'll still be able to follow your bestie, whatever that person is, to you once they finally stop and get their message out when they're parked or at home or anywhere but driving that missile down the road.
But Venture DCS, it's not really more for the broadcaster, I think, or for the viewer. I think it's also for the broadcaster too. And I mean, a perfect example of the other day when I was almost hit, and I had that tweet handy, and you can see, there's my status of my tweet. As you can see, I actually took a picture. I was talking to Christy and I were arranging our show last night, and so I left the house. And anyway, Spencer Pratt did, and I can't believe I'm mentioning him because I'm not a fan at all, but I've changed my mind. He's smarter than I thought he was. But anyway, he was doing a chat. So when I left the house, I had my earbuds in, my phone in my pocket. Took out one earbud because in California, it's against the law to drive with earbuds because then you can't hear the fire engines and the sirens.
The surrounding, the stuff that's around you. That's correct.
Right. So I took the one earbud out. I was going to the hospital treatment, and I listened to it the whole way. I don't have a problem if someone listens. It's when you want to jump in the chat and participate. that's my thing. I don't think you need to jump in a chat and participate, but it's no different than listening to a podcast or an audiobook or anything else while you're driving. And I've heard people say that the app doesn't work through Bluetooth. The app actually did work through Bluetooth for me for broadcasts, for someone who was broadcasting. So
on Blab?
On Blab, it did work for me originally.
So they're looking into it. It may work for some, and it may not. It mostly isn't working for many others. So I think what really they're just trying to say is it's probably mostly broken for most people. If it's working for you, great. Whether
maybe it's got a leg up on everybody.
Yeah, that's it. Netta, I appreciate your time. Thanks for jumping in. Thank you for participating. I appreciate it. Everybody that's here, all the 51 of you, thank you. I really do appreciate it. If you could take this tweet that I'm going to put in the chat and retweet it, that will help continue to spread the infographic that goes with it as well, just so that it's more visual for everybody. Thank you. That would be fantastic. Even Brittany says it works with Bluetooth. Oh, fantastic. So maybe they've made some great changes. So last I heard, it really wasn't doing very good in that regard. So maybe they've, I think Neil is making some changes. So that's great. Let me scroll back. I thought I saw something that I wanted to talk about here. Somewhere earlier today, I was waiting in the car for kids to get out of school and did a blab. Someone earlier today was waiting in her car for her kids to get out of school and did a blab. Well, as long as the car's parked, I'm okay with that.
That could have been Christy, and that was with me. And I want to speak to that because there's a guy in Texas who does a lot of very good YouTube videos, and his platform is his car, but he's never driving. So if that's what you're trying to do by blabbing, scoping, whatever, and driving, if you're trying to make your car that's where you are, pull over and you still get the same effect. You're just not moving.
Okay. I just want to address it because Ed and I did host a show this morning. I had not my phone. My phone was up on my windshields because I use it for, I connect it to I have an older truck. So I actually still have a tape deck that I use the monster cable for audio purposes. But I had my laptop down below me. I drive a Navigator, so my console is set deeper down into the bottom of my seat. So I can't see. I had the laptop there, but I could not see the screen. I actually took a magazine from the back of my truck and actually laid it over my camera, and I used a magazine so that it would actually cover the screen so I wouldn't even be tempted to look. I drove. Ed actually knocked me out of the camera. I drove. My son got in the car. We pulled away. I didn't even talk. All I did was listen. I pulled over at another school that had a larger parking lot with no children around. I actually got out of my truck, went to the passenger side, and then took the magazine off, got back in the seat, and finished hosting the blab. And I did the blab in my truck for about 40 minutes, and then I left. So just so anybody who may have watched that, I was not.
And that blab is available for replay if you want to see the truth.
Yes, you can actually watch it. I covered the entire laptop with a magazine. And I have a 13-inch, so trust me, the magazine covered the whole screen.
That's awesome. I'm trying to set something up. Sorry, my screen went blank.
That's what Christy looked like earlier.
I'm doing that on purpose. So is there somebody else that wants to jump in the seat? I'd be more than happy to let you in. I did miss a couple earlier because I was trying to do something off screen, and I apologize I missed those. So somebody else that wants to jump in, that'd be more than great to do.
Do you want me to stay or you want me to jump, David?
Jason, that's fine. You can stay just for a sec here. I just want to see what I thought I saw. David, try that again. Leanne, remember to mention that we, Australia and UK and New Zealand, drive on the opposite side of the road. Yes, we definitely mentioned that earlier, Leanne. That is absolutely true, but also note that it should not necessarily be taken as a negative thing. I would take it as a little bit more flattery. I know it's annoying to continue to get those comments and stuff like that, but this is a global platform that we're all on, so we all have to work together globally. It would be flattering for me in a way that if somebody across the world in your area, Leanne, that drives on the opposite side were to call me out and say, hey, are you live streaming and driving? Are you driving and doing stuff? If I said, oh, thanks for the reminder, because I'm a part of that. And I agree that no scoping and driving, no live streaming and driving, that distracted driving in general, I will turn my camera around and go, look, that's the driver. And then make it known consistently throughout the my live broadcast that I am not part of that. Don't worry. Even some of the police that were the Manchester, I want to say Manchester, it's not. Tristan, help me out on that. Who was it? It wasn't the Manchester. It was the UK police group. What was their Birmingham? West Midlands Police. Thank you. It was West Midlands Police were doing a thing, and they all drive on the opposite side. And he even got scolded by people in the Blab, because we're so North American centric that we go, oh, you're scoping and driving, and he's like, oh no, actually we're not. In this part of the world we drive on the opposite side, and they totally addressed it. He showed his driver, all that kind of stuff, and it was sort of taken care of. But it kept trickling in, and he goes, thanks for the reminder, but no, over here we're driving the other side. He kept having to remind everybody, which was great. Bear with my video for a second. I'm just trying to see if I've got something sort of lined up correctly. And I'm not sure that this is going to work perfectly, but maybe, Ed, if you can quickly tell me if you get any audio to this in just a second here. Let's try.
All right. No audio.
No audio at all, eh?
No.
Let me just see. Let me see. I thought there was a way. Let me do. Oh, all right. Let me try. Let me try that.
Nope.
Okay. See, it's supposed to be pulling audio in from the system sound. What if I do it this way? Sorry guys for the technical difficulties. I have a video message that I want to share, so. Okay, let's try that.
Hi there, it's Jenny Q.
Yes.
Is it
little volume though?
A little volume.
We can get more volume.
It might be coming through my headset, which is fine. I don't care how it comes out. So I'm going to pull in a little video message from Jenny Q. She couldn't make it tonight. She's got other plans. So this really is only literally 45 seconds. So hopefully everybody can hear this. If you can just put in the comments if it's either completely unreadable or unlistenable, or it's not loud enough or whatever, I'll try and do what I can. Here we go.
Hi there, it's Jenny Q from the Daily Q Show on Blab. I just wanted to stop by and thank you for the work you're doing with Don't Scope and Drive. In 1999, I was in a rollover car accident that was caused by me with distracted driving, and I was just with the cell phone. That was before live streaming. So I'm grateful every day that I can walk, because as I was lying in the hospital room with a neck brace and a backboard after they used the jaws of life to get me out, I didn't know if I'd ever walk again. And I'm especially grateful I didn't hurt anybody else. So please don't scope and drive, just drive. It's not worth it.
That's so true. And Jenny Q, and let me get my camera back if I can do that, because I think that's shucks. I think it's gonna, it's gonna be troublesome for me. All right, give me 1 second. I'm gonna drop right out, and we're back. So for those that there was a little blip in there. I was having some issues with my camera and Cam Twist, which is the virtual camera software that I'm using. I think we're good. So. Jenny Q, first and foremost, thank you, my dear. That was a fantastic message. Thank you for sharing it. We're sorry that you couldn't be here, but I know that you had other plans. The fact that you took, some time out of your day to make that for us, It was great. I hope you're feeling way better now. That and the fact that you're supporting us and supporting the cause, and that you're not doing it yourself, and that you take a complete stance against live streaming or distracted driving in general. We love you. Hope to have you here again soon, guys. Is there any comments for Jenny Q that I can read out of the comment section for her? I would be more than happy to do so. Is there anybody else that wants to grab a seat? And if not, then we'll start wrapping this up a little bit. Any comments for Jenny Q?
I just appreciate her message that it's firsthand, and yes, it puts a face to what we're talking about.
Absolutely. So I'm going to make sure that that video gets shared out as well. That's actually on YouTube. I'll make sure that gets shared out on. Oh, hey, there comes Jay. With a tweet. And what I would like you to do is, when I do share it out, that you A, share it out, and B, give her some direct messages or some live feedback right on Twitter, and thank her for her contribution to it. It's not hard, or it's not easy for somebody to come online and publicly state that they were in an accident as a result of distracted driving, whether injury of anybody else was at as part of it or not, that they're willing to open up and do such a thing. I appreciate it. Jay, how are you?
Oh, I'm doing great, Jason. I just wanted to come on and say you answered all the questions that I was trying to think about could possibly be out there. I appreciate you taking the time, Jenny Q, reaching out to her, putting that stuff together. This is clearly a message that we all need to just continue to push and share, because I obviously don't want anything to happen to me. I don't want anything to happen to my children. I don't want anything to happen to you. It's a preventable disaster, and accidents happen. They're going to happen.
It's not
an accident. If we can do anything that prevents or helps limit those accidents, from keeping air in our tires to not distracted driving.
Let's change one word.
Okay.
It's not an accident. It's a crash. If you're at fault, if there's distracted driving, it's not an accident. An accident was an oops, I bumped into you. Sorry. A little ding, a little, dent or whatever. A full-on crash from distracted driving is a crash. It's not an accident. You could have prevented it.
Oh, yeah, no, right. That's what I meant. Preventable things, we need to do everything we can to prevent danger for, a catastrophe. So that was my comment. So thank you for taking the time, putting this out there. I certainly appreciate your time and effort, and everybody, Ed, Christy, Tristan, Jenny Q, all those that came on.
Baltus, can you jump in? Jay, there was one feedback to the last question out of that list. Is my life worth less than your scoping or live streaming or otherwise? So that last question was, I want to talk to people, and while I drive around town, is there a safe way to do so? Essentially, there's no point even asking the rest of it. Is there a safe way to do so? Well, there is, but as Ed had indicated in his response to that question is my life, as the people's lives around you, worth less than the time and effort that you're putting into the scope that you're doing? Could it be someone's child? Could it be your life? Could it be your grandmother, your grandfather? Could it be, your aunt, your uncle? Could it be a stranger on the road? Could it be the politician, the mayor, the president? Well,
I have a question.
Sure, please.
And it probably is a stupid question with 50 people in here.
Never a stupid question.
Why scope and drive in the first place?
Amen.
I don't understand that. And why text while you're driving? We have a law against that now. So I would figure that scoping would be the same thing. So
It's word choice, and until I mean, social media is growing way faster these days, Frankie, than the laws can change, and that'll always be the case. It's going to take time for laws to get caught up with the changing world around us.
Okay, but you're saying that. I mean, I don't mean to offend anyone here. Then you're just. So what you're saying is people are that dumb to sit there and go, oh, okay, I'm going to go scope and drive. I'm going to go text and drive. Because we had to have a law to have people stop texting because they were killing people. So now we have to do another law for periscoping.
Right.
I'd figure that's the same all encompass.
So that's common sense, right? And most of us tend to have it. I say most of us, because obviously we wouldn't be here doing this today.
What?
If all of us had common sense, because it would be a moot point, right? So, really, obviously that's not the case. And there are going to be laws that are going to be created around social media in general. And it may even get as bad as, in some countries or in some states, touching your device in any shape or form is against the law.
I'm eating chicken, Venture. I'm sorry. She was asking what I was eating.
So,
because I'm trying to eat.
Really, touching your device for any reason while you're driving, there shouldn't be a need to. If you can't hit a single button on your steering wheel, if one comes with, that activates your voice control and say, call Frankie Piddle, and Frankie Piddle mobile. Yes, Frankie Piddle mobile. Thank you. Done. So I'm going to call now your mobile device, and I'm doing it all via voice control. And if your car's too old and can't do that, or you don't have a Bluetooth, device on your visor that can help you do that, then you should be pulling over and making that call, finishing it, keeping on moving, and so on and so forth, or starting it while you're stopped and then carry on the conversation as you continue down the road within your law.
Right.
If you're Ed, distracted driving is distracted driving. I'm not making phone calls. I'm not receiving phone calls. I don't believe I should. I don't believe you should. He makes a valid point. Right?
Well, that's all I came on here to ask because I just thought it was.
I appreciate it. No, you make a valid point. Why do you?
Why?
You don't. You absolutely don't. Not one bit. You want to show off the scenery around you? Get to a scenic spot. Get out of your car, scope around, and enjoy the scenery around you so that you get the chance to absorb and enjoy that scenery yourself and share it with the people that are around you or on the other side of the world. Thanks, Frankie. I appreciate your time. Baltus, how are you, sir?
I'm doing good. How are you guys doing?
Doing fantastic.
It's a tough subject matter to broach with adults.
It really is.
And I've worked in the construction industry for over 8 years and moved up the ladder. And one of my duties was safety manager. I worked with the safety department, so I was part of not only the national regulatory inside of my state of Colorado, but also the national regulatory in the United States of America. So we had MSHA and OSHA because I was part of a mining organization. So, and I wrote in there when you called me out was, there are no accidents. And as a safety director, if a guy had an accident in one of our trucks, there are no accidents. I mean, that was our standard line. That was our standard pitch to the employee. There are no accidents. I had an accident. No, you didn't. You were distracted driving. You were not paying attention. You were under the influence of narcotics or alcohol. You were doing something other than operating.
Preventable.
That is completely preventable. That costs us money as a self-insured entity.
Mm-hmm.
And now you got to go through drug testing and you've got to go through all these steps or possibly termination. Really black and white, really cut and dry, really no argument. And it sucked because, these guys had families, they had kids, and like, dude, I can't lose this job. I'm like, man, I'm sorry. You just wrecked a, $20,000 vehicle, a company truck into a $45,000 piece of equipment. What am I going to do? The stakeholders are going to be wondering why I had to write this down. Sorry, guys, I'm sorry. So
yeah, Yeah, I mean, it happens everywhere, and it's not just necessarily. It doesn't matter if you're in a confined space, in public or private property. An accident is not an accident in most cases these days, and we need to get out of that terminology of using the word accident, because it's been ingrained to us since we were kids growing up that it was accident. Well, the terms are starting to change, because most of everything that is an accident is not an accident. There's very few things that are an accident.
I had a guy go through a rock crusher. A human being fell into it. They called it an accident. Like, what was he doing beforehand? After the investigation, he was not mentally where he needed to be. He didn't have his PPE on. He didn't have all of the safety procedures, and he didn't have it locked out where the electricity was killed. It was a still hot machine. There's nothing actually worse than seeing a blood-coated rock quarry with one of the guys you worked with for 5 years.
Right.
And going to his funeral and looking at his wife and kids.
Joel, you're right. So collision or crash, typically. But in your case, yeah, I mean, safety needs to be paramount on anything that it requires your full attention at most all times. And construction is one of those things. You're operating a heavy machinery, very complex machineries. Look at cranes, look at dozers, look at backhoes and all that kind of stuff. Like, these are incredibly complex machines that require both hands and feet to slightly move and adjust things in millimeter movements and stuff like that, to make adjustments and stuff to the machinery, or big crushers or that sort of stuff, those tree things that you put trees in, and the shredders, whatever, those things. All right. Everything. Those things require a lot of.
And it's not only scoping, guys. Let's be real honest. I've seen it on Snapchat. I've seen it in Instagram, on Meerkat. And I realize maybe you have some message to get out there to the world, but I don't know, man.
Is that worth more than your life? Is that worth more than the lives around you?
Yeah. The risk of being a distracted driver it's a scary proposition. We have law in Colorado that you're not supposed to be texting and driving. They haven't gone to full headsets of Bluetooth yet. I know, and I think it's...
there are ways of preventing it, and there's ways of increasing the chance of people's safety. Cost is obviously going to be a factor in many of those situations, because there's ways of doing that. There's a comment that was passed by, let's see, what is it here? They're flying by. Old aphorism, accidents don't just happen, they're caused. Right? So, true. Craig, welcome.
What's up, Jason? Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Come on in. Let's have a discussion. We probably have a few more minutes before I want to close it up, hopefully in about 10 minutes.
I hope so. That was my main question. It's like I've seen this all day long on Blab. It feels like you guys have been going for hours talking about this.
I think we're just about 2.5. I think at this point. So
really?
It went long form, yeah.
I swear it was longer than that, but
I tried to hold it at 90, and then it almost felt like it was just starting to ramp up at 90 minutes, and it just kept on going. Right?
Topic. So it really is. I've been on Blab for I don't know, a handful of days, a week and a half, and I've seen at least 3 people pop in while they're driving down the road. I don't even know what to say to that.
You leave.
It's disgusting. Like, I don't know what you're thinking.
Yeah.
And you're talking about real life accidents and all that.
Yep.
Which is horrible.
Yep.
And aside from seeing it on Blab, I see it in my own neighborhood. Like, I know one person I was just talking about. We happen to pass these speed bumps. She was going up the speed bump. I'm going down, opposite sides of the road. She doesn't even know she's on the speed bump. She's busy looking at her phone. It's that like, I don't get it. You want to participate in social media, especially something at this level. Maybe you can get a tweet out or a text out, which you shouldn't be doing anyways. But you think you can do a Blab? Okay, you got your little pod on your dashboard or something. I don't get it. I'm sure you guys have covered this. But I found it astoundingly annoying that I've seen at least 3 people in
Well,
I think
can assure
barely
you,
over a week's worth of days.
I can assure you, Craig, many people in this room have seen way more than that in about the same amount of time from the social groups that we hang around in, and
Really?
it's extremely appalling. And it's even more shocking when you finally realize that the people that you've been following for months, if not longer, are the ones that also participate or have a similar philosophy that they don't scope and drive and stuff like that, and then they do one day. You're like, oh my god, did you just what? Wait, what?
Right.
Like you're lost for words. You're like so shocked and dumbfounded. It's like now you have to reevaluate how to approach that person first.
Yeah.
Second, what are the consequences? What are you going to do as a result? Do you continue to support them only when they're not, live streaming and broadcasting or being distracted another way, or just totally drop them as a value add to your life?
Yeah.
Because that one thing or that one instance or two or three or whatever that it takes for you to figure it out is so heinous and goes so far against everything that you trust and believe in that person, and then you just pull yourself away, right? Which is best for you. There's no right answer for everybody, and I get that. So you have to figure out, is that something that's worthwhile to continue to support them outside of some of the silly stuff that they do, or are you really only supporting them even though the fact that that they've done things that are completely heinous against humanity, if you will, in some people's minds, right? So I went to the extreme.
So I would say everyone gets a second chance, right? Maybe even a third if they're new to the platform or whatever. Who knows why you're following them or respect them. But if you know that they've been told, or they've been blocked out of a blab, and then they continue to do it, each time they do it, they're hurting their trust. That's one of the key things of live video is it's one of the best ways to instill trust and build trust with your audience. And so if you repeatedly do something silly like this, like driving and blabbing or driving and doing anything really these days, after you've been called out, then it might be time to unfollow. It might be time to move on, because how true can their business advice be, or whatever else they're sharing, really be, if they're willing to put their own life, other people's lives, whoever knows in the car is there. That's a scary proposition, and from where I sit.
And one of the things, Craig, as soon as you mentioned that you've been on here a couple of days and you've noticed people popping in and being in the car, I just started thinking about that. Here we are on the first couple of million people using Periscope and the first couple of thousand using Blab. And if we don't establish some parameters now, those of us that are truly engrossed in these platforms, that, arguably you can say those of us that are using Periscope, they've used it more than 20 or 30 times, or Meerkat, more than 50 times, Blab more than, heck, anybody that's on Blab today. We're all pioneers. And these people that are doing this now can establish the parameters, because we're looking at, like, Periscope, the last number I heard, there's like 11 million downloads, 11 million users. If that's true, what's going to happen when there's 111 million users? Yep. We can establish the parameters, and we can control what that looks like, where we're not all driving and scoping or meerkatting. We're not all putting video out there so that it looks like it's acceptable in the standard. So we can really change that if we take control. And I was thinking, I don't know if we can have, regular don't scope and drive labs, meetings, but it'd be good if we had some people that, would do some periscopes. Each of us go away and do some periscopes and have that as part of your Periscope platform, your Meerkat platform that's on your website, that's on your Twitter, that's caught by Catch or whoever, that, you're sitting there and establishing it so that anybody that comes on and says, man, I really like Craig Fitfield. Let me see what he has to say. And they go to your website, they go to your Twitter, and as they're looking, they notice that you're always sitting down there with a black wall behind you. Or if you're sitting in a car, you make note that you're sitting in your driveway and wanted to get this message out before you started moving. Then we're establishing the proper behavior, and we're influencing others. And if we, even if we just stop one person, that was worth it. So
absolutely.
That came to my mind as you were sitting there talking. I was like, wow, we're defining what the standards are right now.
Absolutely.
You make an absolute, valid point, Jay. We are the pioneers in this space right now, because how long has Periscope, Meerkat, and Blab and the like been around?
120 something days, I think it is.
Right.
I heard Sean say that tonight, about 120 something.
Right. And Periscope a little longer than that, Meerkat a little bit longer than that.
Yeah.
Right.
Guys, I just want to say, Jason, I appreciate perspective. Maybe this is just how I'm wired. I come in with a very hard and fast position. Just don't do it. And I know I said this before earlier, but I mean, Jay, Craig, I don't really know you guys, but you sound like you got your shit together, and you sound very smart, and you also have a good kind of purview of the topic. But as a father, right, who has two 20-something drivers, another one on the way, I make sure they don't do that. I FaceTime my son today, right? And what he does, he clicks the phone, he throws it on the passenger seat, he goes, "Dad, guess what I'm doing?" "Oh, you're driving, Anthony." "I can't talk to you, Dad." Click. I love that. I love that. So why can my 24-year-old son remind me not to do that when I've been guilty of not scoping, but doing videos and stuff and driving, and everyone else doesn't get that? I mean, do you need, and you know me, Jason knows where I'm going to go with this, because I'm going to start quoting like crazy, okay? Tony Robbins says, you don't make major changes in your life until you have a major changing life event, right? People don't make changes in their life until they have something major changing in their life. Death, dying, divorce, loss of a parent, loss of a spouse, loss of an animal, loss of a job. And then you're like, oh, now I got to make a change. Don't wait for the time where you're like, I can't believe I hit that person. Oh my God, the dog is dead. Oh my God, I ruined someone's life. Don't get to that point. So just don't do it. So my perspective is pretty hard and fast. It's just don't do it. Don't do it. As Reagan used to say, just say no. Just say no. No, and it's. I think this is good. You guys have a great role here on what you want to accomplish. I think what I'm going to do, Jason, I'm going to do a video. I'm going to post it up on my motivational tip of the day website. So if you guys don't know me, I'm Anthony A. Sona, entertainment company, but I'm also a motivational speaker, keynote speaker, conference host. So I do a lot of speeches around passion and living your passion, and I speak to sales executives. So that's really what I do.
And Anthony, I appreciate everything that you do in that space. You have a loyal following, and they hang off of every word you speak, because they wouldn't be following you if you weren't. Well, there's going to be the curious some, right?
Guys, I can't be anything unless you guys share the message and give me feedback. I'm speaking from the heart. So,
and they enjoy everything that you talk about. They get behind you with everything that you say. Mm-hmm. Use that platform wisely, right? If this is what you're passionate about today, great. If you weren't passionate about it yesterday and it's changed, today, then I've done my job here today. I've changed one person's life here, and that's
my message. You change one life a day.
I'm doing this today, not because I'm getting paid for it, which I'm not because of any other reason other than I'm passionate about this.
Yeah.
I've been in the distracted driving situations. I've luckily never been in a situation even close as a result of distracted driving. I'm not saying that it's right, but I've done it. Mm. I am now taking the stance that when I get in my car, I have a cubby hole that's kind of down and sort of out of the way, where I take my phone and I drop it in there. And I said at the beginning of this evening, that there are a few times, very few, that I take this and I drop it into my cup holder, which is where I've had it before.
Yep.
And I can see the screen if I look down and look at it. I typically tend to do it when I'm stopped, not necessarily as many times as moving. No excuse nonetheless. I still have to remind myself to pick it up, throw in the cubby hole, because if it's in the cubby hole, I can't really see it. I can hear that it goes bing and hear the vibration or whatever, but at least I can't look at the screen and go, I'm just not going to do that, right? I mean, that's even worse.
Something. Oh my God, I got like a brain. I got a brain like
sure.
This. Oh my God. So every email you guys send tomorrow, promise me you'll try something just for me. The next email you send from your phone, I want you to put in the subject line, please don't read if you're driving. I guarantee you, and I know it's a sales thing, but try it. Say, please don't read if you're driving. Or put it in the first line, because on your iPhone or on your Android, you usually get to see the first line or two. And when it comes up, it'll say, I would put, first of all, if you're driving, don't read this. Because you know what you're doing is?
Let's try and compact the message.
Yeah,
ignore this if you're driving. Ignore this if you're driving. 4 words.
Ignore this, right? Perfect. Ignore this if you're driving.
Well, what I would say is, we're like kind of almost circling on ourselves. Is this seems like it really needs to be a movement? Like let's organize this and keep moving forward with messages like, what do you do in your email, and how do you occupy your time when you're driving so you can ignore your phone?
Wow.
That, you know what I'm saying? So, listen to audiobooks, find some awesome podcasts. I actually look forward to my time in the car so I can ignore my phone.
Yeah, me too. I listen to it.
That's not what other people are doing.
No. So I used to do just that, Craig, back and forth to work every day. I'm on the road for 2.5, sometimes 3 hours a day to and from work. So that's total time, not each direction. And if it wasn't for, having satellite radio and listening to Howard Stern, if it wasn't for having, Twit on various Twit podcasts loaded on my device or on a memory stick in my car playing, I would be distracted by my device, because I have ADD and I'm a squirrel. I need to go all over trying to get take care of the ADD situation, or the ADHD for the other people. But keeping your mind active on something, Howard Stern is all over the place, and plug it or whatever. I don't really care. Howard Stern's like all over the place, and he keeps your mind kind of moving. And I think that entire show is ADD, let alone, the people that are on it and the people that are listening to it. So it works really well for ADD type people. And then the Twit network sometimes can get boring. So you pick one of those podcasts that are, you keep bouncing around different people and you get different perspectives. You get, if you don't like that one, fast forward, move on to the next podcast. Keep, you're not as distracted. But you're absolutely right. Find something else that's not going to take your mind off of looking at your device or wanting to.
Yeah. So I think the correct terms are you want a passive activity, not an active activity. So
Correct.
Whether it's Blab or Scope or anything, huge part of it can be passive, but you have to look at the screen. You're tempted to respond to a comment. You're even tempted to jump in, which I've seen many people do. That's an active activity. You need to have a habit of a passive activity. You need to be occupied while you're in your vehicle.
And I listen, I listen on my phone. I'm a huge audiobook. I'm like a voracious, I can't say reader. I'm a voracious audiobook listener.
It is reading. You're reading with word, like audio though.
Yeah.
I mean, it's an audio book, but you're still reading. You're taking it in, and you're.
I've done so much research on this stuff. I mean, I listen to audiobooks in my sleep. I'll put it on one, and I'll put it on double speed, and you're actually creating neural pathways in your brain, and you're absorbing it. I know it sounds like it's crazy shit, but it really makes a difference, because I can find myself in a meeting, and no, Craig, this is really interesting, and I'm not trying to listen.
No, I know this. I want to hear it though. I'm going to agree with you.
No, but here,
let's keep it short. Keep it short.
Okay, all right. I want to roll here. So, pick an audiobook, right? If I go to, hold on one second, launch iBooks, right? So if I go on my phone, and I want to go pick up an audiobook, right? So here's a book that I'm reading. I don't want to promote, but here's a book I'm reading right now, right? Sell or Be Sold. Grant Cardone, because he's a fucking maniac. Oh, I'm sorry, I shouldn't be cursing on the record. But here's what I do: is when I do, I go to here. Let me get to see it. Hold on. Let me get to see it.
There it's okay.
See here, you click it. Hold on, let me see, put it up. Anyway, it says, So right now I'm on double speed.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So right now you can't see it, but it's on double speed.
Mm-hmm.
See the 2x there?
Sure.
And I put it on 1. Okay. So if it's an 8-hour book, it'll finish in 4 hours. And it'll sound so fast and weird, but you'll find during the day you're going to get like people call it like a vibration or like a tag or something. And where did I get that from?
Mm-hmm.
This is what happens because you're building neural pathways in your brain when you do things. Like when you write stuff down, you're creating a neural pathway that's never going to go away. Never ever go away. That's why don't text shit. Write it down. Write stuff down. Because when you write stuff down, you trap a thought and you hold it, and it's like a building block that never goes away. So that's what I do. So in the car, I just leave it on double speed. I turn on 1 and go through it, like The Law of Success or War and Peace or something. You just want to get it in your head.
So I mean, this is a great way to keep sort of distracted from your active, ability to stream or interact with a device or whatever. Do passive listening. Find something else that distracts you from, wanting to interact with your device live. Leave that stuff for when you're stopped. You can make new habits by doing stuff repetitively. Do that for a month. Let's see how that works. Do personal experiments, what have you. Let's do
30
that.
days.
Great.
30
Great.
days.
21, but yes, definitely if you want to go 30 days, it should hopefully, if you commit to it here and commit by doing, it should then create the completed circle, and then you should be on your way. Guys, any last final comments with regard to just drive and don't scope and drive?
Try something new. Try something new. You were talking about even passive listening, which is what I was suggesting earlier. Is I do a whole bunch of passive stuff while I'm driving, because I drive a lot coming up here to my lake house, and it takes a lot of time, and I look forward to it because I get to hear a new book or a new podcast. But how about listening to nothing? How about using that as a chance to just disconnect?
Nothing is often too loud.
Yes, but the truth is people need to get used to that. You get to know yourself a lot better if you just listen.
Thanks, Craig. Thanks for coming out. I appreciate your comments and your feedback. Have a good night, sir. Jay, final comments?
A life is not worth a scope. Losing a life is not worth a scope.
And nor having the effect of that loss of life on the people around you as a result of having to take care of you.
That's right.
Thanks, Jay. Appreciate it. We'll be in touch. Have a good night. Anthony, final word.
Life's precious. And try to be present as much as you can. Anything that jolts you or forces you to go look at a scope or a text or to do video, just tell yourself one thing: this can wait. This can wait.
Thanks, Anthony. Have a good night. I appreciate your time. Thank you. Everybody, I can't thank you enough for the 55 people that are still in this room after 2.5 hours, coming up to almost 3 hours of talking about this subject. It means so much to me. It means so much to the many of the other people that are in this room with you. I have to say thank you wholeheartedly, not just to everybody that's in this room right here, right now, who have stuck it out, and the 216 people that have come and gone at various points because they could stay, they couldn't stay, whatever the case may be. Thank you. Thank you, thank you. Thank you to Jenny Q for who did a video for me to share with you live on here. It's incredible. Thank you to Christy. Thank you, Tristan, for helping out in the comments section and keeping us on target and you know, making sure that I've got, you know, viable questions to ask in here. Thanks to Bianca, who's been able to take over. Thank everyone. If I could say thank you to every single name in here, I would. Right here live on this. I will be doing this again. I did it a couple 3 weeks ago. I think it's a regular topic that it needs to be continued. I think it's a topic of discussion that needs to be had at home with your friends, online and offline. And I think it's something that we can make a change. You have it in you to make a change for yourself. If you're not already doing this for yourself already, you have it in yourself to share with your family and your friends to make sure that they come home to you. And that you let them know that you're going to do the same for them. Tristan, do you have any final words?
Yeah, I think that you're absolutely on point there with the fact that it's important for other people to embrace the message. Obviously, different people will listen to different people's opinions. So it's really important that everybody passes the message on in their own words, in their own way, and in their own voice to other people. Obviously, like Jason's saying, it's really important not only for their well-being, but for the well-being of other people around them, and the ripple effect that any incidents can have, like throughout the community. And obviously, we don't want that to be something, you know, we're embracing such a great technology. We don't want that technology now to cause a big problem. I just wanted to vocalize and say thank you to Jason for sticking it out, and to you for giving up so much of your time on this topic. And I'm vocalizing from messages on Twitter and from the chat here that the people in here really do appreciate, this community really appreciates the time you've taken to do this today.
It's near and dear. I mean, what better way to break one's own habits than to be directly involved with such a great cause. I would say anytime, any chance that any of you can get to use the Don't Scope and Drive hashtag and Just Drive hashtag together, I encourage you to do so. Reach out to the people that are scoping and driving, or live streaming and driving, or doing other things and driving after they have stopped, in a meaningful way. Give them a direct message. Don't scold them. Just say, I appreciate everything that you're doing. I understand everything that, you know, that everything that you're about. I support you, except for situations where you're doing something like live streaming and driving, or any other distracted driving means. Like, just drive. It can wait. And then we can reconvene at another point in time. But I don't want to see you hurt or anyone else. I appreciate your time, everybody. Thank you so much for coming out. And if there's anything that I can do, please feel free to reach out to me on Twitter, on DM, or otherwise. We're here for you. There's a whole group of people that are involved in this directly. If it's something that I can't answer, I'll make sure I go get the right answer for you. But I think it's really, at the bare minimum, it's common sense, people. It's common sense. Take care, everybody. Have a good night. Bye-bye.